While everyone else grinds levels, Lin Fan breaks the system itself. Every mechanic he unlocks activates at 100%. His courier class looks weak, and the battlefield treats him as disposable. Yet Yaya waits at home, terrified he will never return. Guaranteed hits, critical strikes, armor penetration, loot, and lifesteal become absolute. Orange gear multiplies every combat stat far beyond normal awakeners. Then Lin Fan faces a boss capable of killing him once. 1 minute later, he stands alone beside its corpse. He pushed the door open, and a wave of scorching heat slammed straight into his face, nearly blasting Lin Fan backward. Hundreds of square meters filled. The workshop was smelting furnaces belching, sweltering hot air nonstop. Zhang Kong sprawled limply across a rickety rocking chair in the corner, his face caked in black ash, snoring loud enough to shake the walls. The old man must have pulled to all-nighters. He never even heard Lin Fan walk in. Lin Fan stepped over and gave his shoulder a gentle shake. Zhang Kong jolted upright off the chair like a spring, grabbing a nearby iron hammer to swing immediately, only to swallow his rage the second he saw Lin Fan standing there. He tossed the hammer heavily onto the ground, rubbed his grimy face, then turned to an iron workbench, cupping a long, flat, dark purple box with both hands. He slid it firmly across the metal surface toward Lin Fan. Zhang Kong silently waited for praise, his exhausted face still carrying the pride of a craftsman who knew he had created something exceptional. Lin Fan pressed the latch, and the box clicked open. The dimly lit room instantly flooded with a dazzling orange halo. 60 streamlined throwing darts sat, neatly locked into molded grooves, no longer jet black. Each dart bore a deep purple gold finish. Its twin wings were honed razor-thin with a subtle curve at the tail resembling plumes from a fierce bird of prey. Lin Fan picked one up. Cold metallic texture seeped into his fingertips. Lin Fan activated scan. The luminous plume was orange grade, adding to 160 attack without any additional special effect. 260 extra attack points. His old falling star darts only granted 50. This luminous plume boosted damage by more than 5 times over. His base attack stat sat at 171. With the darts bonus, his total attack surged straight to 431. Coupled with the attack speed buff from his Grey Wolf gloves, he could unleash 30 shots per second with both hands, adding guaranteed critical hits and full armor penetration. Each strike would deal 860 to damage. The mutated queen ant that had cost him endless effort to defeat before could now be erased in a single second. He stored all 60 luminous plumes, thanked Zhang Kong, and gained complete confidence about entering the frontline deployment. Zhang Kong warned that the rare crystal core could have produced powerful special effects, making pure attack seem wasteful to any ordinary fighter. This top-tier crystal core could have forged a top-tier special effects, wasting it with 0 special effects. Completely foolish. If you picked armor penetration instead, your attack stat would only rise by 200. Yet, you deal much more damage against high defense monsters than raw attack power alone. Lin Fan ignored the complaint because his hidden mechanics already guaranteed armor penetration, making the blacksmith's normal optimization rules irrelevant. He instead asked whether high-grade materials could reforge normal armor and weapons beyond their original equipment tier. You wish, Zhang Kong scoffed. Every piece of equipment has a hard structural cap based on its material tier. Purple gear stays purple. Materials can only boost its stats, never break its grade limit. High-tier equipment can only be obtained through fusion or monster drops. There's no shortcut. Darts are different. Their simple construction makes them consumables, much like crystal cores. Got it. It seemed orange-gray gear would either have to drop from wild monsters or be gambled for at exorbitant fusion cost. Lin Fan turned and walked out of the blacksmith's guild. His phone vibrated twice in his pocket. Outside the guild, a message from Yi Wanqing ordered him to gather at South City Experimental High School by 5 in the afternoon. Lin Fan slapped his thigh. He'd been obsessing over the darts these past 2 days and completely forgotten he was due to deploy to the front lines today. He glanced at the time, 8 in the morning. He still had most of the day ahead of him. No dungeon runs today. Lin Fan hailed a taxi and headed toward Shenbank, determined to secure Yaya's future before risking his life at the front. The lobby manager barely spared him a glance at first, judging by his plain clothes. But as soon as Lin Fan said he wanted to open a family trust account with $1 million principal, he was immediately escorted to the second-floor premium lounge. Lin Fan leaned back on the sofa. The account manager finished the family trust within half an hour, naming only Lin Fan and his little sister Yaya as beneficiaries. The terms are simple. Monthly disbursements will cover her living expenses and education funds. If I die unexpectedly, she inherits everything. He also issued an unlimited black debit card for Lin Fan, preloaded with 500,000 liquid funds. Back at his shabby rental house, the front door stood ajar. Lin Fan hurried inside and saw Yaya hunched over the table, her face nearly pressed against the glass cover of a constant temperature incubator. Yaya rushed toward him, excitedly explaining that the fire ant egg had started moving and its shell was finally breaking. Lin Fan set down his belongings and leaned in. The once smooth, rounded shell of the fire ant egg was now crisscrossed with fine cracks. Crack. A faint tiny hatching sound echoed out. A dark red spindly leg dusted with translucent fuzz squeezed through the fissure, kicking wildly. Next came its head and antennae, followed by its plump abdomen straining to break free entirely from the shell. The hatchling was only the size of an adult's palm. The tiny creature crawled through the incubator bedding, carefully cleaning its two antennae while Lin Fan activated scan. Mutated red ant, juvenile queen level 1. Attack power 0, defense 1. It really was a queen ant, a mutated creature with a complete stat panel. In this world, only awakened humans and mutated beasts could be scanned to reveal their numerical attributes. That meant this little thing held the potential to level up and grow stronger. Still, it was a mutated monster. Was it safe to leave it around Yaya? Before Lin Fan could finish the thought, Yaya lifted the incubator's lid and stretched out her pale small hand toward it. Yaya, don't touch it. Lin Fan lunged to stop her, but the juvenile queen crawled slowly along his fingertips and settled into her palm, rubbing its antennae gently against her wrist, completely docile. Yaya giggled, brushing an index finger across its unhardened carapace instead of shying away. The creature nestled deeper under her finger. Lin Fan let out a relieved breath. It seemed the beast possessed intelligence and had accepted Yaya. Half an inch before his fingertip made contact, the juvenile queen reared its upper body. Its formerly soft mandible snapped wide with a sharp hissing snarl, striking a full defensive combat stance. He tentatively extended his own finger to touch its dark red head. When Lin Fan reached toward it, the queen immediately threatened him, making Yaya laugh and protect her new companion. He'd slaughtered tens of thousands of fire ants out in the wild these past few days. The ant scent and blood clinging to his skin must make. His body still carried the scent of countless slain fire ants, so the juvenile queen naturally recognized him as an enemy. At noon, Lin Fan took Yaya over to their neighbor Aunt Wang's house. He laid out all the fresh meat and vegetables he'd bought in the kitchen, and the three shared a hearty, peaceful meal. Over dinner, Lin Fan spoke to Yaya. Kiddo, I have to leave this afternoon. The Defense Bureau has signed a mission. Lin Fan explained that the Defense Bureau was sending him far north, and the mission could keep him away for more than a month. Yaya's eyes instantly welled up red. Young as she was, she understood exactly where her brother was going. You'll come back, right? Yaya remembered other adults who left for battle and never returned, so her only request was painfully simple: come home alive. Lin Fan promised he was different now, because awakening had given him enough power to survive and provide for her. Whole room full of new dresses. Yaya sniffled and nodded hard. I don't want dresses. Just come back safely. I'll listen to Aunt Wang and feed the little ant every day. After the meal, Lin Fan slipped the black card into a hidden pocket of her school bag, telling her it was their secret never to tell. At 4:30 that afternoon, Lin Fan reached the packed sports field where thousands of newly awakened recruits awaited deployment. Thousands of people packed the grounds. Conscripted awakened ones from every school and civilian organization had all assembled here. A rough glance counted at least 5,000 or 6,000 people. Security cordons lined the perimeter, and armed defense troopers patrolled to maintain order. Over here, from beneath the bleachers, not far off, Yuan Xing waved her arm high. She changed into a sleek silver light armor battle dress with a cinched waist sash that accentuated her sharp, agile frame. Shen Chong and Su Xiaotong stood beside her. Lin Fan strode over to them. Shen Chong pulled a small brass medallion from his pocket and tossed it straight to Lin Fan. Lin Fan caught it. The front face was etched with 2 characters, Dawn. A serial number marked the reverse side. Pin it to your chest. Our squad's registered. Shen Chong tapped his own chest where an identical badge was fastened. This is more than identification. When the teleportation arrays activate, it sends a resonant frequency signal that locks everyone wearing matching badges together, teleporting the whole squad to the same war zone coordinates. Silence. Everyone remained quiet. A loudspeaker blared across the field. The thousands of chattering people went quiet in an instant. On the main podium, a middle-aged man in a black windbreaker took the microphone and strode to the front edge. He carried an overwhelming aura. Even from 100 meters away, Lin Fan could feel a heavy, suffocating pressure weighing on his skin, making each breath heavier. I am Suzan, Lord of Jing. He spoke without raising his voice. Yet, Every word carried clearly to the whole crowd. I'll cut straight to the point. Our frontline defenses are crumbling fast. You stand here today for countless reasons. Some for reward bounties, some for career advancement, most to protect our home. Whatever your motive, anyone who slays monsters on the front lines is a hero. On behalf of every citizen of this city, I thank you all. Fight without fear for our homeland. Rest assured your families will be safe if disaster strikes. I, Suzanne, will stand at the very front to shield your loved ones. 2 beats of silence passed over the crowd, then a thunderous roar erupted. Lin Fan turned his head to find Su Xiaoang clutching a milk teacup beside him, her shoulders shaking violently. Her eyes were bloodshot red as big fat tears plopped down her cheeks. What's wrong with her? Lin Fan wondered. Yuan Xing quietly revealed that the city lord on stage was Su Xiaoang's father, explaining why the girl could not stop crying. Lin Fan finally connected their family name and realized Su Xiaoang had grown up inside the city's most powerful household. Shen Chong belonged to the family behind Shen Bank, whose fortune funded a massive share of Zhang City's military supplies. Yuan Xing came from another leading clan, meaning Lin Fan had accidentally joined a squad filled with elite heirs. Their confidence about equipment and monster materials suddenly made perfect sense, because ordinary financial limits barely applied to them. No wonder when they'd invited him to join their squad, they brushed off worries about monster material drops. He'd accidentally stumbled into a team of the city's elite wealthy heirs. Teleportation arrays activating. All personnel take positions. The loudspeaker crackled again. A massive silver runic circle lit up the ground at the field center. Hundreds of teleportation formations powering on simultaneously. Let's go. Shen Chong pulled his face guard down, hefted his giant shield, and marched into one of the glowing circles first. Su Xiaoang wiped her tears, gripped her staff tight, and followed. Lin Fan and Yuan Xing stepped into the edge of the formation on either side of him. The 4 brass badges on their chest hummed in unison, spawning for faint glowing lines linking them together. Initiate transport. Blinding white light swallowed all sight. Lin Fan felt his internal organs wrenched tight as if squeezed in a fist. His bones and joints torn apart, then pieced back together. Crippling weightlessness tangled with the vertigo of spatial rending washed over him all immediately. Everything went pitch black. He lost track of time before solid ground finally met his feet. Wind thick with the stench of blood flooded his throat, making Lin Fan cough harshly. His vision slowly cleared. They stood on a flattened mountaintop platform, ringed with dense military tents. Voices clamored all around, and low bestial roars echoed faintly from distant valleys, rolling like underground thunder, one after another. Before Lin Fan could steady his balance, an object flew straight toward him. He caught it instinctively. A rolled parchment map. Shen Chong, Yuan Xing. A scarred veteran on the raised platform introduced himself as Instructor Gao, the officer responsible for assigning every new recruit's mission. Though only middle-aged, Gao Yingjie looked much older, with a beast claw scar stretching from his mouth toward one ear. Though barely 40, his face looked a decade older, a thick scar slicing from the corner of his mouth all the way to his ear, as if torn open by some beast's claws. My name is Gao Yingjie. Call me Instructor Gao. He swept his gaze over the assembled crowd. He announced that their group had been assigned to Mountain Sea, the deadliest of the 3 regional war zones. He paused, offering neither congratulations nor condolences. The crowd erupted into murmurs immediately. Mountain Sea? Isn't that the zone with the highest mortality rate? I heard over 80% don't make it back. 8 out of 10 die out there. Anyone forming a party? I can heal and tank. Take me along. Silence. Gao Yingjie hadn't raised his volume, yet the crowd fell dead silent instantly. Men like him needed only a single word to command obedience. Flip your maps over. The reverse side marks camp layouts. Quarters have already been assigned. Your mission is simple. He held up one finger. Venture freely into the low-risk zones marked on your map. Each monster slain earns 1 contribution point, the sole currency here. Food, water, gear, medicine, everything is traded for points. Second rule, he lifted a second finger. Anyone with fewer than 100 contribution points will be reassigned to the front line as cannon fodder. Gao Yingjie ended the briefing immediately, leaving the stunned recruits to understand that survival depended entirely on their own decisions. 1,000 recruits stood frozen where they were, some pale-faced, some white-knuckling their weapons, most staring blankly, waiting for someone to tell them what to do next. No instructions came. Gather here in 2 hours. Shen Chong spoke up beside him. Head to your assigned quarters first to drop off gear and memorize the layout. Lin Fan found his assigned tent from the map. A simple military shelter that still felt spacious compared with his old rental room. Sparse but complete, far roomier than his 10 square meter rental house. Lin Fan sat on the bed and spread the map fully flat. A copper bracelet slid out from the scroll's inner fold and landed in his palm, etched tiny along its inner band. Kills on mutated life forms automatically register contribution points. The Mountain Sea Theater spread outward through 3 concentric risk zones, with danger increasing sharply beyond every forward outpost. Danger intensified the farther one traveled, with forward outposts stationed between each layer. Lin Fan scanned the map's labels and fixed his gaze on a spot. At the low-risk zone's border, Hivewood Grove, he memorized the coordinates and folded the map away. 2 hours until regrouping. Lin Fan arrived back at the meeting point earliest. While waiting, he wandered the camp perimeter. The base sat halfway up the mountain, its peak sheared waist high to form a massive flat platform. The near vertical cliff face dropped roughly 100 meters, a natural defensive wall. Only flying monsters could scale the sheer rock below. Soon after, Shen Chong and the others showed up one by one. Lin Fan's eyes widened slightly at the sight before him. Shen Chong carried a brand new heavy shield, its surface glowing dull orange-gray equipment. His body armor matched the same warm hue. Yana Wanning wielded a new staff etched with swirling indigo runes, orange light shimmering faintly across her combat boots. Su Xiaodong gear was the most impressive of all. Staff, pauldrons, and boots, 3 full pieces of orange armor. She only needed a chest plate to complete a full set. That level of equipment. Lin Fan glanced down at himself. He only had 1 piece of orange gear, the Ant Shadow boots. Without them, he'd feel out of place standing with this trio. True wealth of aristocratic clans. He pushed the thought aside and turned to Shen Chong. Chongo, what's our plan? Farm contribution points first. Shen Chong slung his shield over his back. Points equal survival out here. You can trade for anything. Gear, medicine, intelligence, even orange-grade equipment donated by veteran soldiers as rewards for new recruits. From the map and advance intel, I've gathered the strongest monsters in low-risk zones cap at level 29. Average level 23. He pointed to a marker on the parchment. Flower Hill. Roughly 20 kilometers from here. The hillside is covered in blooms with few tall trees. Unobstructed sight lines. Our first sortie, we play it safe. This zone's named Mountain Sea for a reason. Steep hills and waterways create countless hiding spots, especially underwater with 0 visibility. Flower Hill is far safer by comparison. No one raised objections. Move out. The 4 descended the mountain quickly. Lin Fan's agility-boosted boots lent him wind-like speed, the fastest of the group. Shen Chong brought up the rear weighed down by his heavy plate armor, unavoidable for a tank class. They crossed paths with several low-level mutated beasts along the way. Lin Fan flicked his wrist, sending luminous plumes flying, eliminating each target before the others could even react. 15 minutes later, they reached Flower Hill. No tall trees covered the slopes. Instead, mutated flowers waist-high to an adult stretched endlessly across the hillside. Their stalks thick as human arms, blooms wide as umbrellas swayed gently in the breeze. Shades ranged from deep crimson to murky violet, painting the hillside as if coated in dried blood from afar. As soon as the 4 stepped over the flower field's edge, a cloying, sickly sweet stench washed over them. Lin Fan only took 1 breath of the pollen when his temples throbbed violently, his mind turning fuzzy as if stuffed full of cotton wool. The pollen was toxic. Su Xiaodong Shen Chong reacted instantly. Purification art. Su Jia tapped her staff against the ground and a ring of transparent light waves rippled out from beneath her feet. As soon as the light washed over him, the cotton wool fog vanished completely, his vision sharpening back to crystal clarity. Maintain a triangular formation. Su Xiaodong in the center. Advance inward slowly. Shen Chong raised his shield to take point. The 4 of them stepped cautiously deeper into the flower thicket. The flower stalks grew densely, reaching as tall as an adult man, though the sky stretched open overhead to give a false sense of wide sight lines. The ground beneath their feet was completely obscured. Watch out. Yuanqing let out a sharp cry of alarm. Something had clamped hard onto her calf, and her health bar plummeted visibly before their eyes. Lin Fan glanced down. A football-sized spider clung to her leg, its 8 hairy legs dug into the stalks. Venom fangs sunk deep into her flesh. A monster status skin popped up the instant he laid eyes on it. Mutated spider level 22 attack. For 100 defense, 150 health points for 1000 healing art. Su Shang responded without delay. Green light washed over Yuanqing, and her health started to recover. Lin Fan twisted his wrist, flinging several gilded feather darts forward. 862. 862. 862. 862. The spider was pinned flat to the earth, its legs still twitching convulsively. Yet Lin Fan's attention was not fixed on the fallen arachnid. He stared at the surrounding sea of flowers. Every stalk was swaying, not stirred by wind. Something was moving within the foliage. Hundreds of somethings. Shenshong. Lin Fan lowered his voice. I see them. Shenshong held his shield horizontally before his body. They're gathering, winging. Shenshong's voice rose sharply. Fireball art, burn every last flower around us. Gritting her teeth against the stabbing pain in her leg, Yuanqing held her staff high and unleashed a roaring fireball. Flames hungrily devoured the thicket, the dry stalks crackling and popping as they burned. In mere seconds, a 20 meters radius entered on the Furwas. Reduced to charred black soil, their line of sight opened up completely, 20 meters away. Along the edge of the burnt ground, the gaps between unburned flowers teemed with spiders. Football-sized bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, 8 reflective eyes glinting in the firelight, forming a dense black horde. There were easily over 1,000 of them. Damn it, Shenshong swore under his breath. The spider swarm abandoned all attempts at concealment. They surged forward, spewing white silk threads from their abdomen and dark green venom from their fangs as they scuttled. The venom was easy to dodge, but the silk threads were deadly. A single thread shot forth and coiled around Shenshong's left arm. Halfway through lifting his shield, his movements froze solid. Burn the ground beneath us. Cast fireball right at our feet, Shenshong shouted. Yuanqing swept her staff, sending sheets of flame skittering across the dirt. The silk snapped the second it touched fire. Shenshong broke free of the binding and hissed in pain. Su Xiaotong, rain of restoration. Golden rain fell from the sky, enveloping the 4 of them, mending the health lost to fire burns. Spread out, Shenshong roared. Su Xiaotong, stay put in the middle. The rest of us circle her and attack. Stay mobile, don't let the silk trap you. Lin Fan pushed off the ground, sliding sideways 3 meters in an instant. His 90 agility stat shone to full advantage here. Silk threads whistled past his sides, never once making contact. His hands blurred with constant motion. Gilded feather darts launched nonstop from between his fingers, each one burying itself cleanly in a spider's torso. 862. 862. 862. 100% hit rate. He did not need to aim at all. Wherever he flicked his wrist, the light dart struck, covering every angle within a 20 meters range without blind spots. Mutated spider slain EXP plus to 120. Mutated spider slain EXP plus to 120. Mutated spider slain EXP plus to 120. Kill notifications flooded the screen in rapid succession. On the other side, Yuanqing alternated fireball and freeze arts, unleashing wide area damage, freezing sways of spiders, then incinerating them. Shenshong stood at the outermost line with his shield raised, blocking every spider that tried to close in on Su Xiaotong. After roughly 10 minutes, the final spider was pinned to the charred soil by a gilded dart, its legs curling motionless. The 4 stood silent where they were, heavy gasps echoing through the clearing. Yuanqing's calf still bore open wounds. Su Zhao's mana bar sat nearly empty. Shenshong's shield was covered in acid, corrosion marks left by venom. Lin Fan exhaled a long breath, his palms slick with sweat. If Shenshong had hesitated even half a beat earlier, if he hadn't ordered Yuanqing to burn the flowers immediately, if they'd failed to incinerate the silk tangling their feet, let's head back. Shenshong stowed his shield, his tone far heavier than it had been when they set out. We call it a day here. No one raised any objections. The 4 sprinted full speed back to camp. Lin Fan glanced down at his wristband. Contribution points 560. 1 point earned per monster killed. They returned to their lodgings to rest, agreeing to regroup. At 8 the next morning, Lin Fan lay on his bunk, unable to sleep. He stared up at the ceiling, his mind not replaying the brutal battle they just survived. His thoughts fixated on a single number. Hidden talent progress, 8,360 per 10,000. He still needed over 1,600 more experience points. The 4 of them had fought for hours that afternoon. Yet his personal kill count hovered below 300. At this pace, it would take another 5 or 6 days. Far too slow, he sat upright and unfolded the regional map across his thighs. His finger traced the markings for low-risk zones before finally settling on one location. Bee Swarm Woods. The map labeled its monster type, mutated bees, level 20 to level 24. Individually weak, but packed in overwhelming dense swarms. Swarms of countless targets. A small smirk formed on Lin Fan's lips. 100% hit chance. No aiming required. No line of sight limitations. As long as his darts reached them, every single bee would die. This place was tailor-made for his abilities. He stood, removed his wristband, equipped all his gear, and set gilded feather darts as his primary weapon. He pushed open the tent flap. Night had fallen fully, only a handful of lanterns glowing dimly across the camp. Lin Fan oriented himself toward the woods, and stepped out into the darkness. Darkness blanketed the combat zone. Alone, Lin Fan followed the map's markers until he reached the edge of Beast Swarm Woods. Giant ancient trees wide enough to require 10 adults linking arms to encircle pierced the night sky overhead. Even from a distance, the high-pitched buzz of beating wings throbbed painfully in his temples. He did not rush blindly deeper. He picked the outermost tree. Scanning the moonlit woods, Lin Fan identified a level 23 mutated wasp with 420 attack and 2,500 health points. 100 health points to 1,500 for 120 attack power. Lin Fan checked his own character sheet. Defense 60 for total health points 1,050. A single sting would deal over 300 damage. He could not withstand more than 2 hits. The margin for error was razor thin. Charging head-on meant certain death. He would have to pick off isolated targets first. Crouching low, he circled the perimeter of the woods several times. At last, he spotted something on a gentle slope several kilometers away. A massive oval earth-brown beehive hung from the base of a thick tree branch. It stretched across at least a dozen square meters. Fortunately, it sat far apart from other hives, an isolated outlier on the edge of the woods. Lin Fan roughly estimated its volume. This nest held well over 1,000 mutated wasps inside. Clearing this single hive would grant enough experience to level up his hidden talent. This would be his target. Lin Fan positioned himself 90 meters away and flicked both wrists outward sharply. More than a dozen gilded feather darts sliced through the air. To soft squelching sounds echoed out. The 2 sentinel wasps patrolling the hive's exterior burst apart instantly. The whole beehive erupted into furious motion, the hive's surface writhing violently. A massive cloud of dark yellow insects surged out from the bottom opening, streaking straight toward Lin Fan. Lin Fan pushed off the ground, sliding backward, rapidly. Relying on his towering 90 agility stat, his wrist blurred with non-stop movement. He unleashed his maximum fire rate of 30 darts per second. A dense purple-gold light net spread across the night sky. Every dart that left his hand buried itself in a wasp's torso, without fail. 100 hit rate. Forced critical strikes. Armor penetration ignored. 862, 862, 862. Swarms of red damage numbers floated upward nonstop. 3 darts took down a single wasp. Wasp corpses pelted the ground like rain. More wasps pressed forward in a frenzy, drawn by the scent of their dead kin. Lin Fan never let them close into a full encirclement. Whenever the swarm closed within 30 meters, he spun and sprinted to widen the gap. When they halted pursuit, he advanced to strike again. Hit and run tactics repeated over and over. Retreat when they advance, harass when they hold their ground. After a dozen minutes, the pursuing insect cloud had thinned by more than half. Seeing the swarm dwindle, Lin Fan stopped retreating entirely. He planted his feet 50 meters from the hive, his hands turning into blurs as he poured out a relentless stream of darts. Every wasp that emerged was slain on the spot. System kill alerts flooded his screen without pause. Just then, an ear-splitting shriek reverberated from deep within the hive. The hive's outer shell shattered under a tremendous impact. A colossal wasp the size of a full-grown human burst forth, its body covered in jagged purple-black barbs. A half-meter-long pale blue venom stinger dangling from its tail. Mutated wasp queen level 25, 25 attack, 620 defense. 200 health points, 3,500, 620 attack power. Even a grazing scratch would spell Lin Fan's end. The queen had only just spread her wings, not yet locked onto his aggro. Lin Fan hurled darts from both hands immediately. 5 gilded feathers flew in a tight line, screaming through the air, piercing straight through the queen's compound eyes. Armor penetration, critical hit. Her 3,500 health pool emptied in an instant. Before the queen could unleash a single attack, her massive body plummeted from midair and crashed into the mud. The whole fight had lasted less than half an hour. The beehive fell completely silent, ignoring the carpet of insect corpses covering the ground. Lin Fan retreated to a wide open high slope and sat cross-legged. His breathing came fast and shallow. He immediately pulled up his talent panel. Hidden talent 100 absolute mechanics level 62 to 130. Per 100,000. Effect 1. All thrown projectiles achieve a 100 hit rate within throwing range. Effect 2. All loot and thrown weapons are automatically collected within throwing range. Effect 3. Every slain enemy guarantees a loot drop. Effect 4. All attacks land guarantee critical strikes. Effect 5. All attacks ignore target armor. Lin Fan gaze locked onto the newly unlocked line of text. His Adam's apple bobbed violently. As he read Effect 6, 100 chance of orange tier equipment drop from kills. He read those 6 words 3 times over, his breath catching in his throat. A guaranteed orange drop on every kill. What did this mean? Other players formed 100-person raid parties, fighting elite ruins and world bosses for months on end, without ever laying eyes on a single orange piece of gear. Even Su Xiaodong, the young lady of the city lord's household, only owned 3 orange items total now. Every piece of equipment that dropped for him would be orange tier. Unlimited orange gear at his disposal, Lin Fan rushed to open his inventory. Resting quietly in the first slot sat a blazing golden orange treasure chest, dropped as soon as the queen died, triggered by his new 100 orange drop mechanic. Lin Fan stood and stared out toward the distant bee-swarm woods. Hundreds upon hundreds of beehives hung from the ancient trees in the night. To everyone else, this was a death zone where a beast hunted humans. To him, it was nothing more than stockpiles of top-tier gear waiting to be harvested. All of them are mine. Lin Fan split into a wide grin. He was riding a hot streak. He would farm non-stop through the night. He retraced his path and targeted to connected hives positioned less than 30 meters apart. He repeated his usual tactic, standing far back, flinging a handful of darts to kill the patrolling worker wasps on the outer edges. He had only expected to draw the inhabitants of these 2 nests, but disaster struck unexpectedly. 7 or 8 previously silent hives in the surrounding woods erupted into chaos all immediately. The bee-swarm woods possessed an intricate insect communication network. Disturb one nest, and every hive within range would respond. Countless dark yellow insect clouds shot skyward from every direction, blotting out the night sky overhead entirely. Lin Fan cursed under his breath. This swarm dwarfed the 1,000 wasps he'd fought earlier. There were tens of thousands at minimum. Run! Immediately, he spun and sprinted for his life, firing darts backward as he fled. Yet, he had overestimated how effective single-target attacks were against such overwhelming numbers. 30 darts per second felt pitiful against the endless tide of insects. Every time he skidded to a halt, the swarm closed several meters. He snapped the bracelet around his wrist and refocused on the map from that camp. The Mountain Sea War Zone radiated outward from the main camp in 3 concentric risk tiers. Danger intensified the farther one traveled, with forward outposts stationed between each layer. A 3-dimensional encirclement was tightening fast. I can't stop moving. Lin Fan abandoned counterattacking entirely, pushing his 90 agility stat to its absolute limit. He wove through thick clusters of trees and uneven tangled terrain, using trunks and dead wood to block the wasps' flight paths. 50 meters, 30 meters, 10 meters. The front line of wasps was already brushing against his back. Lin Fan caught a sickly sweet putrid stench filling his nostrils. He threw himself sideways, rolling beneath a collapsed dead tree trunk. A sharp burning laceration tore across the nape of his neck. A fist-sized wasp had dive-bombed him, its venom stinger scraping hard against his skin as it passed. Lin Fan glanced at his health bar. A massive chunk had vanished instantly. Nearly 400 health points lost, with poison ticking away his health points continuously. A single grazing hit had stripped away a full third of his health. Cold sweat soaked through his shirt in an instant. 2 more hits, and he would die right here, gritting his teeth through the agony. He scrambled and crawled all the way past the wood's outer buffer zone. The wasps grew fewer and fewer the farther they strayed from their nest. Before finally breaking off pursuit, he sprinted all the way back to the combat zone camp. Stumbling into his temporary lodging, Lin Fan slid down the doorframe, drained of all strength. His clothes clung to his body, saturated with sweat. His heart hammered wildly in his chest. He'd barely escaped with his life. If the swarm had trapped him for even a few more seconds, tens of thousands of wasps would have gnawed his flesh down to bone. He dragged himself onto his camp cot, scrubbed a hand roughly over his face, and forced himself to calm down and analyze his mistakes. He nearly died for 3 key reasons. First, overconfidence. Unlocking a brand new talent effect and one-shotting the queen so easily had made him underestimate the dangers of this combat zone. Second, poor environmental awareness. Venturing deep into the woods after dark limited his sight lines drastically. If he'd come during daylight, he would have spotted the linked hives well in advance and avoided being surrounded. Third, abysmally low survivability, his core flaw. Only 60 for defense and 1,050 total health points. With stats this frail, any swarm of monsters could kill him into hits. The free attribute points earned from leveling were far too few, pouring every single point into defense would barely make a difference to raise his survival threshold. He could only rely on better gear to stack defensive stats. Lin Fan's gaze drifted to the orange treasure chest dropped by the Wasp Queen. He could only hope it contained a powerful armor piece. He selected extract. The chest materialized atop his cot. Open. The orange radiance faded, revealing a brand new piece of equipment centered on the interface, a pair of boots. Wasp boots orange tier. Agility plus 90, attack plus 120. Special effect 1. Reduce all physical damage taken by 30. Special Effect 2. Wasp Shadow movement speed increased by 50 when out of combat. Gem's socket empty. Lin Fan's eyes lit up brighter with every stat line he read. This gear completely outclassed his current Ant Shadow boots in every way. 90 agility and 120 attack instantly boosted his overall combat power by a massive margin. The two special effects were game-changing. 30% physical damage reduction effectively multiplied both his defense and effective health pool. The 50 out of combat movement speed boost was a godsend, built perfectly for his hit and run kiting playstyle. If he'd worn these boots during his escape just now, he would never have been chased into such a desperate predicament. He cleared his racing thoughts. The clock read 1:15 in the morning. He'd been fighting nonstop all night. His nerves stretched taut to breaking point. Overwhelming drowsiness crashed over him. Sleep first. Tomorrow he would regroup with Shen Chong and the others. With a heavy tank absorbing damage at the front, he could safely unleash all his firepower from the back line without risk. The 6-0 alarm blared on schedule. Lin Fan rolled out of bed and quickly readied all his equipment. Slipping on the newly looted wasp boots left him feeling light-footed, every movement noticeably faster. He pushed open the tent door and headed straight for the camp cafeteria, a vast hall built to seat over 1,000 diners immediately. Lin Fan walked to the new recruit service window and ordered 3 large meat buns and a bowl of milikanji. The cafeteria ant scanned his wristband over the machine. That'll be 200 contribution points total. Lin Fan froze mid-motion with his chopsticks suspended in the air. The price was outrageous. Yesterday, he fought from afternoon till dusk for barely over 500 contribution points, and this single breakfast ate up nearly half his earnings. Without a stockpile saved up, he wouldn't even be able to afford meals in this combat zone. He carried his tray to an empty table and sat down. He bit into a meat bun, thin wrapper wrapped around thick, juicy pork filling, oozing rich broth with every mouthful. The flavor was impeccable. A group of awakened players chatting at the neighboring table let their conversation drift over to him. Heard the news. Over a dozen of the new recruits assigned here yesterday are missing. Missing my foot. They got eaten by a mutated beast for fertilizer. A bunch of cocky rookies sneaking out of camp in the dead of night. It's a brutal lesson for newbies, though the price they paid was their lives. Lin Fan sipped his kanji, a chill running down his spine. If he hadn't run fast enough last night, his name would be on that missing list, too. He finished breakfast in a rush, wiped his mouth, and hurried to the team's assembly point. Shen Chong had already arrived. His bulky orange heavy armor stood out vividly in the morning sunlight, a massive tower shield propped against his shoulder. After their near-death experience the previous night, the sight of that heavy shield filled Lin Fan with safety. Lin Fan walked over to greet him. Waiting and Su Xiaoang haven't shown up yet. I sent them a message to hurry. They'll be here in roughly 10 minutes. Shen Chong turned to explain. Understandable. Girls take time to get ready before heading out. Lin Fan made casual small talk. They stood waiting in awkward silence. No other topics to fill the gap. Lin Fan thought of his unique hidden talent and seized the chance to break the tension. Shen Chong, I wanted to ask something. What kinds of monsters drop equipment? Shen Chong slammed the base of his shield against the dirt floor. Generally speaking, only regional leaders or boss-tier mutated creatures drop gear. The Ant Queen we fought underground last time was one such monster. These high-tier foes have a very high chance of dropping high-rarity equipment. He paused for a moment before continuing. Outside of bosses, mid-sized or larger ordinary monsters have a tiny chance to drop equipment, but the rarity is always low. A purple tier piece would be the absolute best you could hope for from them. Mid-sized Lin Fan had no grasp of the zone's monster classification system. Monsters in the combat zones are categorized by size: small, medium, large, colossal, and the extremely rare primeval tier. Mutant spiders like the ones we ran into yesterday count as small mobs. No gear drops, no matter how many you slay. Wolves, gray bears, wild boars, and similar creatures all fall under medium monsters. Lin Fan nodded. Got it. Thanks, Brother Chong. As they chatted, Yuan and Su Xiaoang hurried over. The four gathered to spread out their map and quickly settled on their destination for the day. Spiked Tuskboar Valley. The valley teemed with mutant boars, all medium tier, roaming in small scattered packs, making the risk fairly manageable. 20 minutes later, the squad reached Boar Valley. To bare rocky mountains framed a wide canyon that stretched endlessly out of sight. As soon as they stopped walking, ferocious boar howls echoed up from within. Shen Chong lifted his tower shield and signaled Waning and Xiaolong to close ranks. The three formed a straight line and advanced steadily deeper into the gorge. Lin Fan, your agility stat's high. head out front to pull aggro. Shin Chong laid out their battle plan. Don't draw too many immediately. Pick them off bit by bit. Lin Fan pushed off with his legs and darted forward instantly. When he spotted lone mutant boars, he flicked several gilded darts to strike them dead with pinpoint precision. If he stumbled across whole herds, he dialed back his damage to only draw their hatred, luring the pack back for his teammates to finish off together. Every time a boar collapsed, Lin Fan caught sight of a faint glimmer separating from its corpse before vanishing into thin air. All loot within throwing range triggered auto loot with a guaranteed 100 drop activation rate for medium monsters. To him, every boar roaming this canyon was nothing but walking top-tier equipment sets. They fought non-stop from dawn until sunset. Lin Fan raced back and forth tirelessly, leaving the other three completely stunned. At 8 that night, the exhausted squad dragged themselves back to camp. Lin Fan bolted straight for his quarters and slammed the door shut behind him, locking it tight. He didn't even pause for a sip of water, immediately yanking open his system panel and tapping his backpack. His gaze locked onto the first inventory slot, and his fingers trembled uncontrollably. Orange treasure chest times 1,600 chest. Tens of thousands of awakened across the zone. Couldn't amass that many orange pieces, even after years of grinding. His heart hammered faster and faster. There were far too many to open one by one. Taking a deep breath, Lin Fan tapped bulk open. Streaks of golden light flashed in rapid succession. 1,600 orange-grade items of every equipment type lined the panel. Armor, bracers, boots, gauntlets, staves, heavy shields. Everything he could need. Lin Fan reined in his excitement and began sorting through the horde of premium gear. What he lacked most right now wasn't attack power, but survivability. As a courier, his fragile health pool was a fatal flaw. So, he prioritized defensive armor that boosted defense, max health points, and carried damage reduction passives. After a dozen minutes, he settled on 3 pieces. Shooting star bindings orange quality. Agility plus 84. Attack plus 110. Special effect reduced critical damage taken by 30. Shooting star plate armor orange quality. Stamina plus 50. Defense plus 300. Max health points plus 3000. Special effect reduced magic damage taken by 30. Shooting star Vam races orange quality. Defense plus 200. Max health points plus 2500. Special effect reduced poison damage taken by 30. All 3 were heavy armor pieces, stacked with damage mitigation effects. He already kept the wasp boots for movement speed, so he skipped swapping them out, tapping equip all immediately. Once the 3 pieces settled on his frame, Lin Fan eagerly pulled up his stat panel. Profile name Lin Fan class courier rank D level. 8 stamina 55 agility 180 defense 504 attack. 261 max health points 55,504. Defense 5,550 health points. Plus 3 separate 30 damage reduction buffs. Lin Fan clenched his fist, feeling surging power well up inside him. If he stepped back into the wasp hive woods now, those mutant wasps wouldn't even scratch his skin. 11 in the afternoon rolled around. Lin Fan slipped the contribution point wristband off his arm and tossed it onto his camp cot. If anyone saw him wearing it after grinding hundreds of thousands of contribution points overnight, the Defense Bureau would haul him in for dissection research first thing tomorrow. He pushed open the door and melted into the night. He headed straight for the wasp hive woods from the previous night. When he reached the forest edge, the high-pitched buzz of beating wings blared as loud as ever. Lin Fan stood in the clearing and channeled his full 180 agility stat, unleashing a blistering attack speed of 60 projectiles per second. 60 purple gold gilded darts wove a dense web of fire around his body. He blew through the outermost row of beehives in one barrage. Countless mutant wasps swarmed out of the nest, diving down on him in a black tidal wave. Hundreds slammed into his body, their cyan venom stabbing deep. 1. Only a single health point deducted per hit. Damn. This world's determined to hold me back. Lin Fan grumbled internally. If this entire swarm descended on him from all sides, his 5,000 plus health points would vanish in seconds. He decided to retreat for safety, sprinting full tilt to shake off the wasps before staggering back to his tent. Messy as he looked, he'd come out unharmed. Warning. Massive creature horde detected approaching. Prepare defensive formations. The combat zone's emergency broadcast crackled to life without warning. All awaken report for emergency assembly immediately. All awaken report for emergency assembly immediately. On top of the high platform, Liao Yongxin, head administrator of the low-risk zone, stood ramrod straight. Behind him stood 4 middle-aged men, including Gao Yingjie, fully clad in battle armor scored with scratches encrusted with dried black blood. Liao Yongxin didn't use a megaphone. His gravelly voice cut clean through the wind. I'll keep this brief. No reinforcements coming. The mid and high-risk zones are under siege, too. All high-tier awaken are pinned down fighting. Right now, it's just us holding this line. A deathly silence fell over the crowd for a heartbeat. Thousands of bloodshot eyes locked rigidly onto the platform. Fall back and Zhang City turns to rubble. Your wives, your children, they're all trapped inside that city. Liao Yongxin slapped the well-worn battle sword at his waist. I'll stand and fight alongside every last one of you till the end. Now split off into your individual squads, scatter and divide our forces. The words barely left his mouth when the stone slabs underfoot shook violently. Roars echoed in a continuous chorus from the cliff bottom. The tremors intensified tenfold. Loose gravel skittering down the rock faces. Lin Fan's squad claimed a raised stone ledge. Shen Chong slammed his tower shield hard into the stone. Triangle formation. Su Shout on at the center. Rotate positions every 5 minutes. Leave 0 blind spots. Mutant rat tied. Someone at the front screamed. Voice cracking with terror. Black surging shadows spilled over the cliff's edge. Rats the size of adult cats. Bloated ones as big as wild boars packed together in a writhing mass. Their razor claws scraped deep gouged into the rock, showering sparks everywhere. The rat swarm washed over their defensive line. Tents and wooden palisades were gnawed to splinters in an instant. Several giant rats lunged into the crowd, and screams tore through the night sky. A spear-wielding awaken was tackled to the ground, not even given a chance to struggle before being dragged under the rat horde. Only sickening crunching chewing sounds remained. Liao Yongxin drew his long sword, blazing crimson light erupting along its blade. He leaped straight off the 100 Zhang cliff alongside Gao Yingjie. The other 2 men also leaped, crashing down onto the rat horde's leader at the canyon bottom. Lin Fan pulled his gaze away from the spectacle. A half-human tall gray rat lunged straight for Su Xiaodong. Dripping fetid saliva onto the stone ledge, he twisted his wrist. 60 gilded darts erupted outward. A crisscrossing purple-gold light barrier formed a net. Darts launched, pierced targets, then returned to his hand. In one breath, over 30 mutant rats were pinned to the rock wall, dead on impact. The rat swarm never seemed to end. Shenshong Tower's shield sparked violently under constant blows. His boots carved to white grooves into the stone beneath his feet. One colossal rat clamped its jaws onto the shield's rim, only to be hurled flying with a roar as he heaved it away single-handed. Yu's fireball incinerated the front of their battle line into charred earth. Yet fresh rats instantly crawled across the burnt ground. Su Xiaodong healing green light flickered nonstop, her staff glowing so hot it threatened to melt. The 5-minute rotation ticked over. Lin Fan stepped forward to take Shen Chong's place on the front line. A giant rat's claw rat across his shoulder. The shooting star armor's passive activated, forcing damage mitigation. Yet 200 health points still vanished from his pool. Lin Fan lurched sharply to one side, teeth grinding hard, never breaking the steady rhythm of his dart throws. It was nothing but brutal stamina drain. 5 full hours passed. Lin Fan's right arm went numb, dead to sensation. Yet, he kept flinging darts on pure muscle memory. Screams from the camp thinned out gradually, leaving only ragged gasps and the squeaks of dying rats. Dark red blood soaked the stone slabs, turning every step slippery and muddy. The roars from the canyon bottom cut off abruptly. Gao Yingjie held Liao Yongxin up onto the cliff top. Liao Yongxin's left arm hung limp and useless. Most of his chest plate shattered open, blood dripping down his trousers to leave glaring red footprints with every step. Gao Yingjie limped heavily on his right leg, forced to prop himself up on his sword like a crutch. The rat swarm retreated like a receding tide back into the canyon bottom, leaving behind mounds of mangled corpses and a revolting stench. Rest where you stand. Liao Yongxin spat out a mouthful of blood foam, his voice and distorted. No mess halls, no tents. Supply lines are completely severed. No rations, no backup support coming. In a camp of thousands, not a single intact wooden stool could be found anywhere. Despair festered amid the broken wreckage. 3 combat zones hit with simultaneous assaults. This is a coordinated extermination tactic. Liao Yongxin swept his gaze across the crowd. They cut our supply lines. In 3 days, we'll run out of stamina, and the real brutal fight will begin. Do whatever it takes to grow stronger. Only those who survive get a future to talk about. Leveling up alone would never be fast enough to boost their strength in such a short window. Here was their only lifeline. Lin Fan leaned back against the rock wall and chugged half a canteen of cold water. His eyes scanned the stone platform. Over 1,000 corpses lay scattered every which way, most belonging to kids around his own age. Just yesterday they laughed and bragged in the mess hall. Today they were nothing but cold statistics. One young man clutched a snapped half-sword in a death grip, a gaping wound torn open in his chest, eyes wide with rage. Beside him, a girl knelt over the body, unable to make a single sound through her sobs. Lin Fan squeezed his water canteen tight, veins bulging on the back of his hand. What good was killing 60 rats a second? He couldn't save everyone. He opened his backpack. Orange tier equipment remaining, 1,580 pieces. The time had come to reveal his ace in the hole, but he wouldn't give them away for free. He stood up and walked over to Shen Chong and the other two. Take off your current gear. Lin Fan spoke up. Shen Chong froze mid-sip from his water bottle. What for? Lin Fan pulled up the trait interface directly. Gauntlets, greaves, chest armor, staves, heavy shields. Premium orange glowing heavy armor pieces flooded each of their trade windows one after another. Shen Chong's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Yuan Qing didn't even notice her staff slip from her hand and clattered to the ground. Su Xiaodong clamped a hand tight over her mouth to muffle her gasp. Put them on. Don't drag the team down. Lin Fan tapped confirm trait. The three mechanically equipped the new armor. Blinding orange light blazing bright amid the shattered camp. Shen Chong stared at him for a long moment before speaking in a trembling voice. Kid, how much top-tier loot have you been hiding? Found them while grinding mobs. Yana Wanting picked her staff back up, chest heaving with emotion. Thank you. Lin Fan had already turned away, heading for the command platform. Administrator Liao. He sent a friend request. Liao Yongxin accepted the request. Liao Yongxin studied the 18-year-old fighter with obvious suspicion, wondering what someone so young could possibly offer the ruined command post. Left to spare right now. I want to strike a trade. Lin Fan opened the trade window, dumping over 1,500 orange tier pieces into the exchange box in batches. The flood of orange radiance lit up Liao Yongxin's blood-streaked face from head to toe. Liao Yongxin breath caught in his throat. He stared fixed at the trade panel, trembling fingers sweeping across empty air to confirm he wasn't hallucinating. He snapped his head upward, lips quivering, then threw back his head and laughed, a hoarse, borderline deranged cackle. Gao Yingjia stepped over to glance at the screen. The man nearly bit his own tongue clean through. Excellent, outstanding, perfect, Liao Yongxin repeated 3 times in a row. This isn't a donation. It's a trade, Lin Fan said evenly, his tone calm. Liao Yongxin blinked in surprise. What do you want in return? The combat zone has 0 stockpiles left. To demands. Lin Fan held up the fingers. First, assemble for fully staffed squads for me. Plus every single stamina restoring consumable stockpiled in the combat zone. Second, once this crisis ends, erase all my personal records completely. No one will be able to pull up any data on me. I won't be affiliated with any combat zone, nor bound to government jurisdiction. Liao Yongxin studied him silently, gaze heavy as he sized the boy up and down. Who exactly was this kid? No single person could possibly possess this much high-grade equipment. How had he pulled it off? What did he need for full squads for? A whirlwind of questions raced through his mind. Yet their desperate situation left no room for hesitation. Agree to my terms and all this gear goes to the combat zone. Lin Fan paused. And there will be more where these came from. Deal. Liao Yongxin sealed the agreement. The trade finalized. Lin Fan glanced at his now empty backpack and tugged up a faint smile. Liao Yongxin jumped onto the high platform, voice booming loud enough for everyone to hear. All awakened, gather round. Collect your equipment by squad. Take this gear I've given you and make sure you survive this fight. A thunderous roar erupted from the repressed camp. Glazed, lifeless eyes sharpened with resolve as every awakened gripped their orange glowing weapons tight. Lin Fan stepped back to the camp's edge, brushing dust off his shoulders, and stared toward the wasp hive woods hidden deep in the night. 1,500 pieces were nowhere near enough. He intended to outfit every soldier manning the defensive line with a full orange set. Gao Yingjia leaped down from the platform, his combat boots slamming hard against the stone slabs. 16 fully armed awakened marched behind him for complete 4-person squads. Standard formation. They're all yours. Gao Yingjia held out a storage pouch. Every stamina restoring consumable the combat zone could scrape together is inside this bag. Lin Fan took the pouch and stowed it straight in his backpack. Move out. No extra words needed. The 20-person group marched through the wreckage-strewn camp, halting beneath the rock ledge where Shen Chong's squad rested. Shen Chong was wrapping bandages around a gash on his arm. He paused mid-motion when he saw Lin Fan approaching with a full detachment. Shen Chong. Lin Fan spoke. These 4 squads will merge with ours temporarily. We form a 20-person regiment. I hold full command over all upcoming operations. Shen Chong glanced at Lin Fan, then swept his eyes over the 16 orange armored soldiers behind him. What's your plan? Farm mobs. Shen Chong tied the bandage tight in a firm knot and stood upright. Fine, we follow your lead. Lin Fan opened his backpack, split the stamina supplies into 4 equal stacks, and tossed one pile to each squad captain. Today is to wipe the Wasp Hive Woods off the map. Any objections? Speak now. Otherwise, we leave immediately. Lin Fan turned and led the way forward, the full regiment trailing after him toward the Wasp Forest. They reached the treeline, and the shrill buzz of beating wings stung their eardrums. Lin Fan called the group to a halt. Healers formed the innermost ring, archers the second ring. Warriors and mages pair up to hold the outer perimeter. Hold formation. No breaking ranks. Everyone scrambled into position instantly. 3 concentric circles locking into place. Lin Fan stood beside the healers, gilded darts balanced between his fingertips. Advance. The formation pressed forward. Heavy warriors lifting massive shields, their amplified strength stats surging to full power. Boom. Towering trees blocking their path were smashed clean through, splinters flying everywhere. Mages advanced right behind the front line, hurling fireballs into dense underbrush. Flames roared skyward, crimson light painting the heavens. The beehives deep in the woods ruptured open, and the zone shared information network activated. Tens of thousands of hives erupted in simultaneous chaos. Mutant wasps surged out in endless waves, coalescing into a black insect tide that crashed down on their formation. Don't retreat. Stand and meet them head-on. Shen Chong planted his shield firmly at the absolute front line. The insect swarm slammed into their defensive perimeter. Cyan venom stabbing relentlessly into the outer ring warriors and mages. 1 force single-point health points deductions. Countless white damage numbers floating. That's all the damage they can muster. Shen Chong let out a loud laugh, slamming his shield forward to crush a wasp into pulp with one blow. Archers in the second ring drew their bows to full tension, arrows piercing straight through the wasp's abdomen with pinpoint accuracy. Mages poured unrelenting firepower, chain fireballs detonating inside the swarm to wipe dozens of wasps' health points bars. In single blasts, Lin Fan stood within the inner circle, his hands blurring into motion as 60 gilded darts launched immediately. 3 darts skewering each wasp to the bone. A 20-person party hit the hard cap for the system's loot and experience calculation mechanic. Any fewer wasted efficiency. Any extra members would not register progress toward mob clears. 140,040 crimson damage numbers flickered nonstop, his experience bar skyrocketing upward. Mounds of wasp corpses piled high, only to be incinerated into ash by cascading fireballs. Moments later, the regiment circled the Wasp Hive Woods, contracting inward ring by ring toward the forest core. Giant trees toppled, beehives shattered to pieces, and every wasp within 5 meters was torn to shreds. The battle dragged on until dusk the following day. Hop! Lin Fan's dart pierced the compound, eyes of the final mutant wasp queen, sending her crashing into charred earth. The Wasp Hive Woods was erased entirely from the map. Nothing but burnt wasteland stretching to the horizon. Lin Fan recalled his gilded darts to his hands. Mission complete. Dismiss your squads. The 4 captains exchanged glances, asked no questions, and led their teams back to camp. Lin Fan stayed behind, settling down on a massive boulder and opening his system backpack. 35,000 orange treasure chests stacked every inventory slot. The whole screen washed out with orange light. Wasp claws, wasp stingers, wasp tails. 3 unique drop materials. Over 10 million of each stockpiled. Far too many to scroll through in a single page. Lin Fan tapped bulk open. 35,000 burst of orange light exploded across the screen. Shooting star heavy plate orange. Raging blast staff orange. Shadow step leather boots orange. Premium armor pieces for every equipment. Slot flooded his backpack instantly. He closed the equipment panel and pulled up the chat interface to message Liao Yongxing. How many more pieces of gear does the combat zone still need? Send me a full list. 3 seconds later, the inventory requirement list popped up. 10,000 pieces short. Lin Fan selected 15,000 orange tier items in the trade window and hit send. A full minute passed before Liao Yongxing reply arrived. Receive. A second message pinged through right after. Your full personal record eraser protocol is ready to activate. When would you like it executed? Lin Fan typed his response quickly. Now new code name 0. 5 minutes later, a system notification chimed. All personal data linked to your profile has been permanently erased. Your new official code name 0. All digital traces associated with your identity have been wiped from every database channel. Lin Fan opened the chat system again, His Class 3 senior group chat vanished. Message threads with Shen Shang, Yuan Qing, and Su Xiaodong emptied completely. His contact list sat blank. Empty. Only the global public channel and his private chat window with Liao Yongxin remained. Lin Fan closed the chat menu and pulled up his stat panel. Level 28 hidden innate talent level 9. He scrolled his gaze downward and 3 newly unlocked passive effects glowed with dim golden light at the bottom of the screen. Effect 7. 100 leaf steal. Effect 8. 100 splash damage splash radius. 100 meters 100. Damage transference. Effect 9. 100 compatibility rate. Leaf steal. Recover health points equal to all damage dealt. Infinite sustain and unkillable perpetual machine splash damage. Full damage within a 100-meter radius. The denser the targets, the more devastating the chain reactions. Compatibility rate. Lin Fan glanced at his class panel. Dart thrower rank D. Still rank D. Plain and simple. He could not fully grasp what this effect entailed for the time being. His eyes moved downward. Free attribute points. 199. Lin Fan's fingers froze. Level 28 with 199 unallocated points. He did quick mental math. That averaged out to 7 points per level. Rank D Awakeners gain 1 free attribute point per level up. Rank C 2 points. Rank B 3 points. Rank A 4 points. Rank S 5 points. Double S rank 6 points. 7 points per level. Lin Fan stared rigidly at the number. No public records worldwide documented anyone exceeding double S rank. He recalculated 3 separate times. The result remained 7 double S ranks. The system sent him no pop-up announcements, no notification alerts whatsoever. Yet, the numbers did not lie. He was the first and only triple S rank holder on the planet. Lin Fan did not hesitate. He poured all 199 points into attack. The attribute panel refreshed instantly. Name subject 0 class dart thrower rank D level 20. 820 million per 50 million stamina 55 plus 50 from equipment agility. 180 plus 3 from class plus 174. From equipment defense 50 for plus 500 from equipment attack for 160. Plus 130 from equipment health points 5,500. 50 plus 5,500 from equipment throwing range. 2,900 meters hidden talent 100 mechanics. Level 920 million per 0. Effect 1. All thrown projectiles strike targets 100 within throwing range. Effect 2. Loot and thrown weapons auto-collected 100 within throwing range. Effect 3. Enemies drop loot 100 upon elimination. Effect 4. 100% critical strike chance. Effect 5. 100 armor penetration. Effect 6. 100 orange tier equipment drop rate. Effect 7. 100 leaf steal. Effect 8. 100 splash damage. Splash radius 100 meters. 100 damage transference. Effect 9. 100 compatibility rate. A throwing range of 2,900 meters. Nearly 3 full kilometers. Each level up for the double S rank. Talent extended throwing range by 100 meters. Once he hit level 100. 10 kilometers of effective range. Lin Fan closed the status panel. It was still not enough. If he planned to operate alone, his survival capabilities needed to be maxed out completely. He reopened his inventory. 20,000 pieces of orange tier equipment rested quietly inside the storage slots. He slid his finger over to the synthesis interface. The rules were straightforward. 2 orange tier pieces could be fused to randomly craft 1 red tier item with a 1 success rate. 20,000 orange pieces in stock. Lin Fan tapped mass synthesis twice in succession. The whole synthesis interface was instantly engulfed by scarlet light. 1 crimson pillar after another erupted from the inventory slots, surging upward like a torrential downpour. System notifications flooded the screen nonstop. Synthesis success. Blazing Flame Heavy Armor Red Tier. Synthesis success. Void Rift Staff Red Tier. Synthesis success. Soul Devour Leather Boots Red Tier. The scrolling alerts ran for 3 full minutes before grinding to a halt. Lin Fan turned his attention back to the inventory. 60 pieces of red tier equipment lined the slots neatly. Their condensed scarlet glow several shades deeper than orange gear. He clicked open 1 piece at random. Blazing Flame Heavy Armor Red Tier Defense plus for 180 stamina. Plus 120 bonus effect when struck. 30% chance to trigger flame retaliation, dealing 200 reflected damage to the attacker. Its stats were 3 to 4 times higher than orange tier gear. Plus a unique triggered bonus effect. Lin Fan scrolled through several pages. Every red item carried its own exclusive auxiliary ability. Some boosted attack speed, some raised evasion, others summoned protective shields. He spent half an hour reviewing every piece's stats, then selected a full red tier set perfectly optimized for the dart thrower class. Blazing Flame Meteor Bind Gauntlets Red Tier Agility plus 180 attack. Plus 340 special effect. Stone Shield Critical Resistance reduces incoming critical damage by 45. After taking a critical hit, gain an additional 10 universal damage reduction for 3 seconds. Red Exclusive Passive Meteor Solid Physique. When health points drop below 50, critical damage reduction rises by an extra 15. Blazing Flame Meteor Chest Plate Red Tier Stamina plus 200 defense. Plus 610 health points. Plus 5,100 special effect. Void Arcane Barrier reduces incoming magic damage by 45. Red Exclusive Passive Starlight. Arcane Shield. Max health points increased by 100 gem slots. Empty times to Blazing Flame Meteor Bracers Red Tier Defense. Plus 500 health points plus 4. The Vambrace's added defense, health, poison resistance and doom ward, which blocked one fatal strike before entering a long cooldown. Empty times to Blazing Flame Piercing Hornet Boots Red Tier Agility plus 140 attack. Plus 400 special effect 1. Iron Wall Martial Guard reduces incoming physical damage by 45. Gain 1 movement speed for 5 seconds upon landing a basic attack. Stackable special effect 2. Hornet Shadow Rush movement speed doubled out of combat. Instantly purge all slow debuffs when exiting combat. Red Exclusive Passive Meteor Shadow. 10 increased chance to dodge basic physical attacks gem slots. Empty times 2. His attribute panel flickered as the new set equipped. Stamina rocketed from 55 to 205. Agility surged from 180 to 426. Attack jumped from 460 to 970. Defense climbed from 54 to 114. Health points skyrocketed to 19,500. Red Exclusive Passive. Starlight Arcane Shield. Max health points doubled. With this attack stat paired with 100% critical strike chances, full armor penetration, and unmitigated splash damage, no living creature could survive within 3 kilometers. Lin Fan shut the panel. Night wind swept across the charred wasteland, swirling tiny broken hornet wing fragments through the air. He stood and brushed ash off his trousers. He would keep the remaining red tier equipment for later synthesis into dark gold and legendary tier gear. Day 1 of solo operations began now. Lin Fan lifted his foot and stepped into the darkness. A single trail of footprints marked the scorched earth behind him. No squad, no name, no origin. Code name 0. Gray dawn light spilled over the horizon. Boom. The whole mountain platform shuddered as if struck by a giant sledgehammer. Gravel skittering down the cliff edges. Lin Fan's eyes flew open, and his body sprung upright on instinct. The war zone broadcast blared across the area once more. All Awakeners man battle stations. Repeat, all Awakeners report to combat positions immediately. He threw back the tent curtain. Chaos erupted outside. Unlike the frantic disarray of the last battle, thousands of people moved in eerie unified sync. This time, orange equipment glows merged into a continuous sheet. In the dim morning light, as if molten lava coated the mountaintop, tanks formed a perimeter front line. Mages channeled spells and standby, and healers huddled at the rear. The confidence granted by high-tier gear outmatched any rallying speech. Lin Fan did not seek out Shen Chong and the others. Gripping his luminous plume darts tight, he sprinted straight for the highest vantage point of the camp. He scaled it in 3 quick bounds to overlook the whole battlefield from above. His breath caught. Last time it had been a rat horde. This time every breed of mutated beast swarmed together. The canyon below the cliff wall writhed with a pitch-black mass, completely obscuring the ground beneath. A cacophony of beast roars, wing beats, and scraping kittens shook the earth. The sky was even more terrifying. Swarms of flying mutants circled overhead along the cliff ridge, wingspans ranging from 2 to over a dozen meters wide, blotting out half the sky. On the far mountain ridge line, colossal shadowy figures the size of multi-story buildings advanced slowly. 1 to Lin Fan used scan on them. First Beast Lava Plate Colossus level 35 attack 1,500 defense. For 1,000 health points 800,000. Second Bikali Giant Anaconda level 38 attack 6,000 defense to 1,000 health points. 600,000 super large tier monsters. 2 of them. Lin Fan retracted scan his eyes. Sweeping rapidly over the horde beneath the cliffs, tens of thousands of large class mutants. Scattered across the canyon floor, many already starting to scale the rock faces with flying dive bombers providing cover overhead. This was a coordinated, organized siege. These beasts had a commander, everyone. Liao Yongxin voice echoed from the platform edge. His left arm hung limp in a sling, yet he gripped his long sword white-knuckled. Last time was just an appetizer. This is the main course. Hold the cliff top at all cost. Before his words faded, he leaped straight off the 100-meter cliff. Gao Yingjia and two other veteran awakeners followed close behind. They plummeted into the canyon to engage the massive large beast below. For orange shooting stars crashed into the heart of the horde, erupting in walls of blood. Combat ignited simultaneously atop the cliff. The first wave of flying mutants dove down. 3-meter mutated vultures with iron-sharp beaks and wind-cutting talons. Archers loose, mages blanket fire, arrows and fireballs stepped skyward. Mutated vultures fell in droves, their carcasses slamming against the stone pavement. Yet endless swarms surged to take their place. Watch the cliff walls, someone roared. Lin Fan followed the shout. Thousands of flat-bodied mutated lizards clung to the rock face, climbing at breakneck speed. Their gecko-like suction claws locked into stone cracks already 1/3 of the way up. A dull rumble echoed from deep within the cliff rock further out. Crack! A massive hole burst open in the stone. Half-human-sized mutated pangolins pouring out clad in iron gray plating. Jagged snouts crusted with rubble. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. 3 separate assault routes breached the defenses all immediately. A fully integrated land-air offensive. Thousands of awakeners were split across disjointed defensive lines, each group fighting independently, but the stat advantage of orange tier gear turned the tide. A single shield bash from a tank crushed a vulture's skull instantly. A mage's fireball incinerated pangolins with screaming flames. The first wave assault was repelled. Lin Fan remained motionless, standing atop the high platform. He twirled the luminous plume dart between his fingers. His gaze ignored the clifftop skirmishes. They required no intervention from him. His full focus locked onto the canyon below. Tens of thousands of large-class mutants churned restlessly. Ash grizzlies, spider matriarchs, giant scorpions, iron boars, countless mutants packed tight, waiting to scale the cliffs. Liao Yonggin's forming group slaughtered furiously beneath them. But from men against tens of thousands of large beasts was barely a drop in the bucket. If these massive creatures reached the cliff top, the whole defensive line would collapse. He could not wait for them to climb. Lin Fan twisted his wrist. 60 luminous plume darts launched simultaneously, throwing range to 1,900 meters. The whole beast horde below the cliff fell fully within his firing radius. Violet gold light streaks shot from the platform, slicing through the pale gray dawn sky, nearly too fast for the human eye to track. Over 1,000 meters away, an ash grizzly mid-fight over territory with its packmate had its head blown apart without warning. 2,400 100% hit chance. 100 critical strikes, full armor penetration. Yet this single strike was not the true horror. It was the splash damage centered on the slain grizzly. Every mutant within a 100-meter radius spawned floating red damage values immediately. 2,400 to 1,400 to 1,400. A single dart dealt full damage to every target inside a 100-meter blast zone. 60 darts unleashed immediately created 60 overlapping blast radi. Stack splash damage guaranteed instant mass death. The canyon horde could not comprehend what was happening. Their health points bars drained inexplicably. The front line of large beasts climbing the cliff collapsed limply. Before reaching halfway up the rock face, 140 to projectiles per second. Lin Fan's hands blurred into after images. Luminous plumes launched, hit targets auto-recalled, and fired again in an unbroken cycle. Violet gold light streaks shuttled back and forth between the platform and canyon, merging into an indistinct glowing veil to onlookers. 10 seconds in, all large beasts within a 100 meters directly below the cliff collapsed in mass. 30 seconds. A 200 meters radius cleared completely. 1 minute, over half of all living mutants within 500 meters lay dead. Awakeners manning the cliff defenses were the first to notice the anomaly. Holy hell. What's going on? A heavy shield tank absorbed the lizard's tail swipe, catching sight of the canyon below. The once dense horde had been carved out in a massive swath. The monsters down there are dying. Who's dealing that much damage? Liao's team of 4 can't pull this off. No one could offer an answer. Shenchong stood at the stone platform edge, his gaze cutting across half the battlefield to the solitary figure atop the highest peak. He watched Lin Fan rapidly spinning hands and those nearly invisible violet gold light streaks. Shenchong parted his lips, unable to utter a sound. This kid was something else entirely. 5 minutes passed. 1/3 of the large beast horde in the canyon had perished, far along the mountain ridgeline. The 2 colossal shadow figures began advancing. The lava plate colossus stomped forward on thick limbs, each step sending shock waves rippling through the canyon floor. Behind it, the scaled giant anaconda slithered like an iron river, raising its serpentine head to spew billowing green toxic mist from its jaws. They were marching straight toward the war zone. Captain Liao, the 2 super large beasts, armed moving, someone shouted down from the clifftop. Deep in the canyon, Liao Yongxin was swarmed by over a dozen mutated ash grizzlies. His sword flashed as he glanced back at the two titans. He could not break free from his encirclement. Gao and Xiao was equally trapped by hordes of mutants. Lin Fan spotted them too. The two super-large monsters advanced slowly, but their sheer size spelled disaster. One blow could shatter the whole cliff wall once they drew near, burying thousands alive. Lin Fan halted his continuous barrage against the canyon horde. He flipped his wrist, recalling all 60 luminous plumes to his palm. Then he purchased 10,000 starfall darts from the system shop. He leaped down from the high platform. Instead of heading back to the cliff top, he vaulted straight over the cliff edge. His battle boots kicked off rock protrusions to bounce and rebound, landing on the canyon floor after a series of quick leaps. As soon as his feet touched ground, Hornet Shadow Rush activated, doubling his movement speed. He charged straight for the two super-large beasts. Alone, shouts echoed down from the cliff above, torn apart by the rushing wind. Lin Fan ran for less than half a minute before stopping 300 meters from the two titans. This distance was more than enough range. The lava plate colossus locked onto him first. Its dozen-meter-tall frame surged forward, smashing craters into the earth with every heavy stride. The scaled giant anaconda followed close behind, lowering its serpent head as green poison mist gushed from its fangs. Lin Fan stood perfectly still. No dodging, no evasion, no retreat. He simply lifted both hands. Every luminous plume dart unleashed in 1 second, all targeting the colossus. 2,400 to 1,400. Once the luminous plumes exhausted, starfall darts took over the assault. 200 to 1,100 splash damage activated. The giant serpent fell within the blast radius, absorbing full damage simultaneously. The health points bars of both super-large beasts began plummeting. The lava plate colossus closed the distance to Lin Fan, raising a massive claw etched with lava runes, sweltering heat rippling off its surface as it swung downward. Lin Fan did not move. Crash! The giant claw slammed into his body, caving a half-meter-deep crater into the ground as dust billowed skyward. Lin Fan stood unharmed in the pit. Health points 19,519,200. A mere 300 health points lost. Negligible damage. Seconds later, a continuous stream of 140 luminous plumes renewed the assault. Every hit triggered full life steal. Health points 19,219,500. Full health restored in a single heartbeat. The colossus struck a second time. Health points dropped. Life steal refilled his health to maximum instantly. Third claw strike. Health points fully restored again. The scaled giant anaconda circled to his flank, jaws splitting wide to fire a concentrated stream of green venom. The meteor bracer's passive venom immunity activated, negating all persistent poison damage. The venom splattered against his armor, hissing into thin clouds of smoke. His health points bar did not shift at all. Lin Fan never took a single step backward the whole fight. 27 seconds. He counted silently in his head. The colossus' health points had fallen by 1 per 3. 42 seconds. Half its health points depleted. The serpent's health was far lower, nearly drained completely. 51 seconds. The scaled giant anaconda convulsed violently, slamming its head against the ground. Its 70 meters body twisted and spacemed twice before collapsing limply onto the rubble dead. Lin Fan redirected all his darts to focus fire on the lava plate colossus. 58 seconds. 59 seconds. 60 seconds. Thud. The dozen-meter-tall lava colossus toppled backward rigidly, crashing into the canyon floor. Dozens of fissures split the earth, dust clouds blotting out the sky. Lin Fan stood where he had fought. Health points 19,500 per 19,500. Completely full, atop the cliff, thousands watched the whole sequence unfold. Silence blanketed the battlefield. An archer froze mid-draw, jaw hanging open in shock. Two super-large tier mutants, the apex threats of the whole low-risk zone. One lone man standing motionless the whole time, 60 seconds flat. Dead silence hung over the crowd for 3 full seconds. Then deafening roars erupted all immediately. What the hell? Who's that person? The super-large beasts are dead. They're actually dead. Shin gripped his tower shield. Histo apple bobbing heart. He stared at the tiny figure in the canyon, minuscule next to the two towering monster carcasses like a single grain of sand. Yuan Qing stood beside him, her white-knuckled grip crushing her mage staff. The death of their leaders rippled as a signal across the whole beast horde. Every large mutant halted its cliff-scaling advance and began fleeing in all directions. Flying mutants took flight first, clearing the sky within minutes. Pursue them. Liao Yongqin's roar echoed up from the canyon depths. Let none escape. Chase them down. Thousands of awakeners vaulted over the cliff edge, charging after the scattering horde. Swarms of orange glowing figures flooded the canyon, spreading far into the distance. Lin Fan did not join the chase. He turned, brushed rubble and dust off his shoulders, and glanced toward the far side of the canyon, the boundary, separating the low-risk zone from the medium-risk zone. His work in the low-risk zone was finished, but the war was far from over. Lin Fan stepped forward and walked alone toward the medium-risk zone. Behind him, the shouts and roars of pursuit faded farther and farther away. No one noticed his departure. The canyon narrowed as he pressed deeper, and the stench of blood hanging thick in the air burned his nostrils. Lin Fan had run less than 10 minutes when corpses began littering the ground ahead. Not monster corpses, human ones. A female awakener clad in light purple armor lay crumpled amid rubble. A fatal piercing wound through her chest. She was still clutching a staff snapped clean in two. Beside her slumped warriors side by side, their shields shattered to pieces. Their armor was torn open to raw flesh and bone. Further ahead, the bodies grew denser still. Some were torn clean in half. Others lacked heads entirely. Blood stained the earth a dark crimson sticky underfoot with every step. Lin Fan never slowed his pace, sweeping past corpse after corpse while mentally tallying a rough count. Over 100 bodies, and that was only those scattered along the path. A thunderous roar mixed with screams rumbled from the distance, shaking the ground nonstop. He crested a rocky ridge, and the vista burst wide open before him. Lin Fan froze. The whole battlefield of the medium-risk zone stretched out in full view. Across a dozen square kilometers of wilderness blazed fire, frost, and pools of congealed blood. Thousands of awakener fighters were hemmed into a tiny pocket of land, ringed by endless layers of massive mutated beast. The horde stretched black and unbroken to the horizon. Flying mutants circled and dove through the sky. On the ground, mutated grizzlies, iron-plated wild boars, and giant lizards packed shoulder to shoulder without a gap. Lin Fan activated his skin skill. Mutated ironback bear level 33 attack, 1,200 defense, 1,200 health points 1,000. Mutated steel fawn lizard level 35 attack 3,800 defense, 2,000 health points 150,000. Their average level hit 33, and these were only the mid-sized beast. He shifted his gaze farther out along the mountain ridges edging the wilderness. Dozens of colossal shapes advanced slowly. The smallest stood 5 stories tall. The largest loomed like a small hill when upright. Lin Fan's skin won at random. Magma giant ape level 40 to 42 attack, 8,000 death, 6,000 health points, 1,220 level 42, 6,000 defense, 1 point to million health points, and there were dozens more just like it. Turning back to the Awakener pocket at the battlefield center, thousands of fighters huddled together, their formation completely shattered. Warriors bore the brunt of the assault at the front lines, mages frantically pouring spells from the rear. While sparse streaks of green healing light flickered feebly, there were far too few healers. Or rather, most had already perished. A level 35 mutated grizzly swatted a part of frontline warrior's shield, its giant paw, sending the man flying over a dozen meters. He crashed to the ground and never moved again. A fire mage in the back row raised his hand to hurl a fireball. An iron-plated lizard sank its fangs into his waist from the side, and his scream cut off instantly. The battle line was collapsing. Every second claimed another life. At this rate, all thousands of fighters would be wiped out in under 20 minutes. If the medium-risk zone fell, the horde of giant beasts would surge straight into the low-risk zone and then join city. Lin Fan twisted his wrist, 60 gilded plumed daggers sliding between his fingers. He did not hesitate. Both hands flicked outward in one simultaneous throw. Violet gold streaks shot from the rocky ridge where he stood, arcing 700 to 800 me to slam into the densest cluster of beast. 100 hit rate, 100% critical strike chance, 100 armor pierce. The first gilded plume pierced a mutated grizzly straight through the skull. 24,400 100 splash damage triggered, centered on the impact point. Every mutant within 100 meters floated identical damage numbers overhead. 2,400 to 1,400 2,460 throwing daggers landed at 60 separate points. Their splash radii overlapped and stacked, multiplying damage endlessly. 140 to damage ticks per second. By the end of the first second, the health bars of every giant beast lining the battlefield front plummeted drastically. On the third second, the beast with the thinnest health pools collapsed outright. Wave after wave of them crumpled to the dirt. It looked as though an invisible scythe had swept horizontally through the beast horde, reaping everything in its path. At the battlefield center, a heavy shield warrior knelt on one knee, his shield split by 3 jagged cracks. 3 mutated grizzlies raised their claws to strike him immediately. The three bears froze mid-motion. Strings of red damage values popped above each of their heads. Then their bodies went limp, crashing heavily to the ground with dull thuds. The warriors stared blankly. He glanced left and right to see his two comrades equally stunned. They were far from the only ones. Every awakener along the front pocket sensed something wrong. The beasts charging them were dropping dead, not from their blows, but for no discernible reason at all. What's going on? Who's dealing this damage? Is someone attacking from behind us? No one could answer. The beast died faster by the second. The first row fell, then the second right after. A domino effect sending the horde toppling backward in endless waves. Lin Fan stood atop the rocky ridge, his hands flicking daggers nonstop. The gilded plume's attack speed, splash damage, and built-in 100% life steal meant he had zero survival worries. Striking from over 1,000 meters away, no beast could ever reach him. Yet, the pace of slaughter still felt too slow. Tens of thousands of giant beasts would take far too long to whittle down. With only long-range splash attacks, every extra second cost more human lives on the battlefield. Lin Fan recalled the gilded plumes to his inventory and leaped straight off the ridge. Wing Shadow Dash activated, doubling his movement speed while out of combat. With over 400 agility stacked alongside the speed boost, he moved at an absurd sprint. The straight 800 meters stretch from the ridge to the heart of the horde took less than 6 seconds to cross. He charged straight into the thickest mass of monsters. All 60 gilded plumes launched immediately. The violet gold daggers detonated in a burst around him, radiating outward in every direction with his body as the core. Each blade locked onto a separate target, splashing damage across a 100-meter radius. The overlapping splash zones of all 60 landing points stacked repeatedly, forcing every mutant within a 200-meter circle to absorb dozens of full damage instances simultaneously. After one volley, the ring of giant beasts surrounding him vanished entirely. Once the gilded plumes expended, 10,000 starfall daggers flooded out of his system inventory. Lower base attack. It did not matter. With 100% critical strike chance and 100 armor pierce, each individual starfall dagger still dealt over 1,000 damage. 10,000 unleashed in one flood. Splash damage stacking to its maximum potential. Lin Fan's hands blurred into after images. The daggers flew so fast the naked eye could not track his precise movements. Only endless streaks of violet gold and silver light streamed off his frame, weaving an impenetrable net of damage. Beasts lunged forward only for their health bars to empty before they could touch him. He kept moving for 100+ agility let him weave effortlessly through the horde. Every step he took left a trail of corpses in his wake. A mutated ironback bear pounced straight at him, massive paw whipping through the wind. Lin Fan twisted sideways, the bear's claw grazing his shoulder. At the same time, he twisted his wrist, driving 12 starfall daggers deep into the beast's throat. Its 50,000 health points vanished in 3 seconds flat. Next target, then the next, then another. Back at the defensive pocket, the surviving Awakener fighters watched in stunned silence. Did you see that? Over there, an archer pointed deep into the beast horde, his hands shaking uncontrollably. The tide of tens of thousands of giant beasts thinned visibly before their eyes. It looked as though a massive vortex churned at its center, swallowing every monster whole with no escape. It's just one person. A vision-enhanced archer tightened his grip on his bow. I can make him out. Only one single fighter in there. One person? Are you joking? No one replied. The truth was laid bare for all to see. 10 minutes passed. Lin Fan crisscrossed the horde 3 full times. The gilded plumes had long returned to his inventory, and the 10,000 starfall daggers were also spent. Only a few hundred straggler beasts remained, fleeing in scattered directions. The ground lay carpeted with mutant corpses stacked layer upon layer, some piles rising halfway up a human's height. Smaller mutants fared far worse. Trapped between the giant beast, the splash damage one-shot them outright. Lin Fan did not need to target them deliberately. As soon as a dagger struck a giant beast, every small mutant within 100 meters perished alongside it. Tens of thousands of giant mutants wiped clean in 10 minutes. Lin Fan came to a halt, gasping for breath. The battle had drained a great deal of stamina, yet his health bar stayed full at all times. 100 life steal combined with his rare armor passive eliminated all resource management concerns mid-fight, but there was no time to rest. Along the distant mountain ridgeline, those dozens of colossal supergiant mutants had begun to move. They did not trudge slowly like the two beasts from the low-risk zone. They charged at a full run. Dozens of titans accelerated as one, sending constant tremors rippling through the ground. Clouds of dust billowed upward, blotting out half the sky. They were heading straight for Lin Fan. His 10-minute massacre had drawn every ounce of their aggro. Lin Fan lifted his gaze and quickly counted them. 37 total. The closest stood less than 500 meters away. A colossal lizard covered entirely in cyan scales, thick muscular limbs, corrosive acid dripping from its jaws. Absol lizard level for 40 attack, 7,200 defaf, 5,500 health points, 9,807,100 attack power. Lin Fan ran a quick mental calculation, factoring in his armor and damage reduction. A direct blow would strip roughly 3,000 health from him. His life steal could fully restore his health points in 1 second. He could tank 1. He could tank 2. 37 attacking all immediately. Over 30,000 damage flooding in every second. Leaf Steel could never keep pace. He could not stand his ground and trade blows. Lin Fan pushed off the dirt, reactivating Wing Shadow Dash to blast backward at high speed. Even as he retreated, his hands never stopped moving. All 60 gilded plumes launched toward the lead Absol lizard. Every other super giant mutant within the splash radius absorbed full damage as well. 2,400 to 1,400 140 to damage ticks per second, dealing 340,000 damage to a single target each second. Yet, these beasts possessed absurdly massive health pools. The weakest held 600,000 health points, the strongest topped 1.2 million. He would have to whittle them down slowly. Lin Fan began kiting the horde. For 100+ agility paired with double movement speed let him outpace the Titans by a wide margin. He sprinted 100 meters to create distance, spun to unleash a volley of daggers, then ran again. He had used this tactic against the mutated rat swarms back in the low-risk zone. Now his prey had changed from giant rats to towering monsters dozens of stories high. 37 super giant mutants chased him across the whole battlefield. The ground cracked under their weight, choking dust swirling everywhere. Lin Fan zigzagged through the haze, never ceasing his dagger volleys. Every full loop he completed dropped one beast to critical health. 3rd minute, the first supergiant collapsed, the Absol lizard. Its 980,000 health points depleted. Its massive body toppled sideways to the ground, twitching twice before falling still. 5th minute, 3 more fell. 8th minute, 6 more perished. The supergiants rearranged their formation. Instead of charging as a single mob, they split into 3 groups to flank him. Lin Fan was trapped within a narrow rocky corridor. The magma giant apes slammed their fists toward him from the left. An iron-tailed python coiled to strike from the right. 3 giant lizards opened their jaws to spew corrosive acid dead ahead. Lin Fan dove through the only narrow gap between them. A giant ape's fist crashed into the dirt inches behind his back, the shock wave staggering him to steps forward. 1,200. He had been caught in the splash damage. Health points 1,950,018,300. The very next second, his daggers struck the monsters, triggering life steal. Back to full health, he kept running, kept throwing daggers. 15 minutes in, half the Titans lay dead. 20 minutes, only 12 remained. 25 minutes, 6 left standing. 30 minutes. The final supergiant, and level 40 for Absol Overlord Python, its body torn and scarred, let out one last deafening roar. All 60 gilded plumes pierced its vital neck point simultaneously. 2.2 million health points wiped out entirely. The python's immense body crashed to the earth, kicking up a towering cloud of dust that blotted out the sunlight. Silence fell over the whole medium-risk zone. Thousands of surviving Awakener fighters stood far off, covered head to toe in blood. Frozen like stone statues, no cheers erupted. What they had witnessed far surpassed anything a simple cheer could express. One single person. 10 minutes to erase tens of thousands of giant mutants. 30 minutes to slaughter 37 supergiant titans. This was not a battle. It was a one-sided massacre. Lin Fan recalled his daggers and brushed dust off his sleeves. He ignored it to the watching fighters. Lingering not a single moment, turning away, he strode toward the high-risk zone marked on his map. After running several dozen meters, a hoarse voice called out from behind him, "Wait, which combat zone are you from? What's your name?" Lin Fan did not look back. The words scattered on the wind. His figure vanished into the dust haze entirely. Far in the direction of the high-risk zone, a dark crimson pillar of light shot straight into the sky. Distant thunderous rumbles echoed faintly from that horizon, deeper, heavier, and much more constant than the noise from the medium-risk zone. Lin Fan quickened his pace. He had run less than 3 minutes when his communication panel popped up. An incoming message sent by Liao Yongxin. Only for short characters. The high-risk zone has fallen. Lin Fan's footsteps ground to a halt. A second message appeared immediately after. Primordial-type mutants above level 50 have emerged. No fighter can hold them back for now. Lin Fan crossed the medium risk zone's boundary when another alert pinged his comms. Liao Yongxing. Over half the high-level Awakener force in the high-risk zone is dead or wounded. 50-person squads are retreating. Full frontline collapse expected in 15 minutes. A third message followed close behind. Temporary designation for the primordial mutant Golden Horn Colossus level 55. No attacks have dealt meaningful damage to it thus far. Level 55. Lin Fan never slowed his sprint, activating his skin skill minion. The distance was still too great for the scan to lock on, but tracing the source of that crimson light pillar, he could just make out a massive silhouette on the horizon. The creature stood stationary, its frame more terrifying than all the medium-risk zone supergiants combined. 3 minutes later, the full scope of the high-risk zone unfolded before his eyes. 10 times more devastated than the medium-risk zone. Hardly a single intact human corpse dotted the ground. Shattered armor, broken weapons, and blood trails dragged dozens of meters stretched everywhere. Survivors fled backward in chaotic disarray, swatted flying one after another by the pursuing supergiant beast. Lin Fan's gaze swept past the retreating crowd, locking onto the distance. His skin finally reached its target, Golden Horn Colossus primordial type level. Level 55 attack, 35,000 defense, 10,000 health points, 1,500 agility, 500 traits, dual ranged melee combat mode, 15 million health points, 35,000 attack power. Lin Fan stared at the numbers on the skin panel, a cold prickle crawling up the back of his skull. Even stacking all his armor and damage reduction, a single direct hit from this monster would, no need to calculate, one strike would kill him outright, subtracting his defense and percentage damage reduction. The piercing damage would easily top 20,000. His total health only stood at 19,500. Instant one-shot kill. To make matters worse, it possessed 500 agility faster than him. He could not outrun it. Lin Fan drew a deep breath and closed the scan in her face. He would deal with it later. Dozens of supergiants and thousands of large mutants still hunted the fleeing Awakener fighters across the battlefield. If every last human died here, the beast tide would flood straight back into the medium and low-risk zones. He needed to clear this secondary horde first. Lin Fan twisted his wrist, unleashing the gilded plumes once more. Same strategy as always. Max out splash damage. Start slaughtering from the densest clusters of monsters. He avoided heading toward the Golden Horn Colossus, targeting only the supergiants flanking and trailing the retreat line. These beasts held health pools ranging from several hundred, 0 to 2 million. What counted as powerful bosses in the medium-risk zone were merely appetizers here. 140 to damage ticks per second, full splash coverage. The supergiant beast health bars plummeted in waves. 3 minutes in, 5 of the weaker supergiants collapsed. 5 minutes in, 8 more fell. The fleeing Awakener fighters noticed the pursuing horde thinning abruptly. Some glanced back, watching giant beasts drop in batches and supergiants topple one after another. Someone's fighting back. Stop running. Hold the line. A handful halted their flight and raised their weapons once more. Yet most continued to flee because the Golden Horn Colossus had begun to move. Lin Fan caught the motion from the corner of his eye. The Colossus slowly rotated its head larger than an entire truck, its two curved golden horns glinting with dim crimson light. It locked its gaze directly on Lin Fan's position. It had not charged yet. It only watched. Lin Fan ignored it, continuing to thin out the horde. 8 minutes later, he had slain 23 supergiants in the high-risk zone, alongside over 1,000 large mutants. The battlefield's deadly pressure eased drastically. The remaining super and large mutants broke into scattered retreat. The time had come. Lin Fan recalled the gilded plumes and turned to face the Golden Horn Colossus. 1,800 meters separated them. It still stood rooted to the spot, but its posture shifted. Limbs bent low. Golden horns dipped toward the ground, resembling a bull coiled to charge. It waited for him to draw near. Lin Fan did not advance. He planted his feet at a distance of 1,500 meters. This range sat perfectly within his dagger throw radius, yet far enough to retreat safely. He could unleash a full volley, then sprint away, using wing shadow dashes out of combat speed burst to create separation, circling back once the skill cooldown finished. Theoretically sound, but 500 agility made the Colossus faster than him. The dash's speed boost only lasted a fleeting window. He would need to time every movement with pinpoint precision. No more planning. He would fight first. Lin Fan raised both hands. All 60 gilded plumes launched simultaneously. Violet gold streaks sliced through the murky sky, crossing 1,500 meters to embed themselves firmly in the Golden Horn Colossus' massive frame. 100 hit rate, 100% critical strike chance, 100 armor pierce. 2,400, 2,400, 2,400. 60 identical damage values floated above the Colossus immediately. Its health barely budged. 15 million total health points. 60 strikes dealt a mere 140 for 1,000 damage. Less than 1% of its total pool. The Golden Horn Colossus let loose a low, ground-shaking roar. It moved. Muscular limbs slammed into the earth, launching its titanic body forward in a full charge. Its 500 agility stat activated to full effect. The dozens of meters tall monster sprinted fast, enough to carve a chain of deep craters into the ground beneath its paws. It could cover the 1,500 meter gap in 3 seconds flat. Lin Fan spun and sprinted away immediately. Wing Shadow Dash activated. Out of combat. His movement speed doubled instantly, for 126 agility stacked with. The 100 speed boost pushed his instantaneous velocity above 800 units per second. The Golden Horn Colossus could no longer close the gap. It barreled into the spot where Lin Fan had stood a moment prior, slamming empty air. It lifted its head and roared, sending shards of rock flying 300 meters in every direction. Lin Fan had already pulled back to a distance of 2,000 meters. The temporary speed boost from Wing Shadow Dash faded after several seconds. Lin Fan slowed to a jog and turned back around. The Golden Horn Colossus charged straight toward him once more. 1,800 meters, 1,600 meters, 1,500 meters. He was in range. Lin Fan raised his hands once more. 60 gilded plume daggers struck forth all immediately. 2,400 times 60. Another 140 for 1,000 damage shaved off its health bar. After unleashing the attack, he spun and fled. Swift Shadow Dash activated again. The Golden Horn Colossus swiped at empty air. Round 3. Round 4. Round 5. The cycle repeated endlessly. Each cycle took roughly 40 seconds. Sprint far enough to trigger out of combat reset. Dash to widen the gap. Circle back to a safe distance. Hurl the daggers, then run once more. Lin Fan repeated this loop dozens of times. At last, the Colossus' health bar showed visible depletion. It took nearly 10 minutes to chip its full health down to 90. Far too slow. Yet, he had no better plan. The beast boasted 10,000 armor, even with his dagger's full armor penetration. Each strike only dealt 2,400 damage. The 100 armor ignore bypassed its defense stat, yet his raw attack power remained fixed. At full sustained fire, he could output 340,000 damage per second. With 15 million total health, theoretically, he would need 40 for seconds of unbroken assault to drain its life entirely, but non-stop attacking was impossible. Every volley forced him to retreat, leaving massive windows of zero damage output. The actual time needed would multiply several times over. 15 minutes in, its health dropped to 70. 20 minutes in, 60. The Golden Horn Colossus grew increasingly enraged. The boss changed tactics, opening its mouth mid-charge and firing a golden beam faster than Lin Fan had expected. The beam traveled at blinding speed, firing nearly instantaneously. Lin Fan was mid-circling advance when a flash of gold caught the corner of his eye. His body dodged instinctively. The beam grazed his left shoulder and slammed into a cliff face 300 meters behind him. Boom! The whole rock wall exploded apart, sending boulders flying to reveal a crater over 10 meters deep. Cold sweat soaked Lin Fan's back. If that beam had hit him dead on, he dared not imagine the outcome from that moment onward. Every time he circled back to strike, Lin Fan hurled his daggers while sprinting at top speed. No more stationary firing. He tossed the blades mid-run. Accuracy held unshaken. His guaranteed accuracy still worked while moving, but firing on the run shortened every damage window and slowed the boss's decline. The Colossus' health sank to 40. It halted its charge. No more pursuit. It drove all four limbs deep into the earth, its twin golden horns trembling violently. A blinding golden orb condensed at their tips, swelling larger by the second. Lin Fan's scalp prickled with terror. It was charging its ultimate skill, flee. He could not gauge the attack's range. It already wielded long-range strikes. A charge blast would have an unfathomable radius. Tank it head-on out of the question. Its base attack hit for 35,000 and charging could easily double that value. Only one option remained. Flood it with full damage while it finished charging. Lin Fan advanced instead of retreating. He sprinted straight for the Golden Horn Colossus at maximum speed. 1,500 meters. 1,000 meters. 800 meters. 60 gilded plume daggers poured nonstop. The closer he drew, The faster the blades looped back to his hands, cranking his attack speed to its absolute limit. 2,400 to 1,400. Its health bar plummeted visibly before his eyes. 600 meters. 500 meters. The golden orb expanded to its breaking point. The golden horn colossus jerked its head downward. Its two golden horns locked onto Lin Fan, and the orb launched free of its body. A golden pillar as thick as a house crossed the 500-meter gap at inconceivable velocity. Lin Fan had no time to evade. The pillar struck him dead center. For a split second, it felt as though a speeding train had slammed into his frame. Every defensive buff on his armor detonated simultaneously. Physical damage reduction, critical damage resistance, magic damage mitigation stacked atop one another as red damage numbers spammed his status panel. Damage taken 23,800. His maximum health 19,500. It exceeded his total health points pool. A fatal blow. By all rights, he should have perished instantly. Yet, no death notification popped up on his system panel. Instead, a line of small scarlet text flickered into view. Doom Ward activated and blocked the lethal strike, leaving Lin Fan balanced at exactly 1 health point. Lin Fan was sent flying over 40 meters, slamming his back into a massive boulder. The stone shattered, embedding his body into the rock face. The metallic tang of blood filled his mouth. A high-pitched ring hummed in his ears, but he lived. A 3-minute cooldown on Doom Ward. One more hit within that window, and death would be certain. Lin Fan wrenched himself free of the rock wall, the instant his feet touched ground. He answered with another volley, and 100% life steal began rebuilding his health bar from the brink of death. The next strike pushed it to 4,800. The third, 7,200. 3 seconds later, his health points refilled completely. After unleashing its ultimate, the Colossus suffered a pronounced stun lock. Its golden horns dimmed, limbs trembling faintly from charge recoil. Lin Fan gave it no chance to recover. Uninterrupted maximum damage output. 340,000 damage flooded its health bar every second. The golden horn colossus roared and surged forward to attack once more. Lin Fan spun and ran, swift shadow dash activating to pull ahead, then circled back to strike again. This time, he exercised extreme caution, never drawing within 500 meters of the beast. Strike once, retreat immediately. No greedy extra hits. 28 minutes in, 30 health remaining. 29 minutes in, 20. The Colossus' movement slowed drastically, its body riddled with violet gold dagger punctures, thick golden bodily fluid oozing from every wound. 30 minutes. Lin made his final circling advance. 1,500 meters away. The golden horn Colossus dragged its broken frame and let loose a last roar. A cry steeped in the bitter regret unique to sentient beings. 60 gilded plumed daggers launched as one. Violet gold blades pierced its throat, abdomen, and all 4 jointed limbs. Its health hit 0. The Colossus' towering body froze mid-charge. 1 second to seconds. Then it toppled sideways slowly like a skyscraper stripped of its foundation. Crash! The ground shook as if struck by an earthquake. The whole high-risk zone trembled. Dust billowed skyward, blotting out half the horizon. The system confirmed the ancient golden horn Colossus had been slain, awarding 50 million experience and for immediate levels. Lin Fan stood 1,500 meters away and recalled his daggers. A dull ache lingered in his chest. Without Doom Ward saving him earlier, he would be a corpse right now. A level 55 ancient variant. He would need an entirely new strategy if he encountered another creature of this caliber. Far off, the surviving awakened ones in the high-risk zone stood frozen in place. Some wept. Some laughed hysterically, others collapsed to the ground, gasping for air as they stared skyward. With the golden horned Colossus dead, all remaining monsters fled in disarray. The pressure weighing down the whole battlefront vanished in an instant. Voices echoed across the zone. Who did that? Look over there, a single person. Dozens of gazes locked onto his position, yet the distance and swirling dust obscured his features completely. Lin Fan did not linger. Swift shadow dash activated, his figure vanishing into the cloud of churn dust. Next came erasing every remaining threat in the region. Lin Fan skipped returning to the base camp. Clearing the high-risk zone did not mean the mountain. Sea Theater was fully secure. He pulled up the theater map, tracing his finger over every marked point. Red triangles signified confirmed monster hives. Gray dots marked unexplored territory. The mountain Sea Theater spanned over 300 square kilometers, still dotted with more than a dozen red triangles and countless gray dots. None of the monsters in these zones had joined today's mass assault. Yet, their presence remained an unignorable hazard. Leaving them alive would only breed future disasters. Lin Fan stowed the map and sprinted toward the nearest red marker, for kilometers throwing range. Guaranteed critical hits, full splash damage on every strike. Upon reaching the zone, he did not even need to enter the hive itself. Perched on a hill 2,000 meters distant, he lifted both hands and unleashed a storm of gilded plume daggers. Violet gold streaks sliced across the sky, diving deep into the valley below. Damage numbers floated upward from the valley floor, dense enough to span the air nonstop. 3 minutes later, the hive was cleared. On to the next. Lin Fan carved a straight path across the theater from the high-risk zone through the mid-risk zone, then veering toward the fringes of the low-risk zone. At every monster nest, he paused, unleashed his daggers, recalled them, and moved on. The routine was mind-numbingly repetitive. Its efficiency, however, was completely devastating. He passed through a canyon teeming with thousands of mutated scorpions. A scan revealed their maximum level hit level 30. Lin Fan stood atop a high cliff overlooking the canyon floor and loosed one full volley. 60 splash damage Roddy blanketed the whole gorge twice over. 40 seconds later, silence reigned within the canyon. Next came a marshland, its waters hiding untold hordes of mutated toads. Their levels hovered around level 20, but their numbers stretched into the thousands. Lin Fan lingered at the marsh's edge and hurled his daggers into the murky water. The exact same tactic he'd used to wipe out serpent swarms in Central Park's lake. No clear line of sight required. His 100% hit chance ignored all visual obstructions. Daggers plunged beneath the surface, triggering underwater explosions that churned bloody murk to the top. 2 minutes later, the whole marsh stained dark crimson. Another marker cleared. 7 hours passed. Lin Fan traversed every red marker and most gray unexplored zones on the map. When he finally halted atop the southernmost mountain ridge and glanced back, the 300 square kilometers mountain sea theater stretched behind him, completely purged of monsters. His system panel's experience bar surged wildly before stabilizing. He had reached level 42. His inventory overflowed with treasure chests and monster drops. He elected to tally them later. Lin Fan closed the panel and sent a message to Liao Yongxing. The theater is fully cleared. I'm leaving. 10 seconds later, a reply arrived. Received. Your arrangements are finalized. A residence in the capital has been prepared. Coordinates attached. A second message popped up immediately after. Code name 0. The Mountain Sea Theater owes you countless lives, not just one. Lin Fan did not respond. He closed the chat window, pulled up teleportation array coordinates and selected the capital. A flash of white light, and the gravel beneath his feet transformed into asphalt pavement. Jiangshang, East District, 9-0 at night. Pedestrians lined the streets sparsely. Yet the city felt far livelier than when he left. Locals walked dogs beneath street lamps. Smoke curled off barbecue stalls. Distant children's laughter drifted through the air. The mutated monster threat plaguing the city had evidently been neutralized. Lin Fan stood on the roadside for several seconds. The sweet aroma of roasted sweet potatoes hung thick in the air. He wasted no time heading straight for his old home. He slowed his pace upon reaching the alley entrance. He'd walked this lane for over a decade, able to pinpoint every loose paving stone with his eyes shut. He pushed the front door open. Lights blazed inside the house. Wang Yaya hunched over the desk doing homework. She snapped her head up at the noise, eyes blown wide, then shot to her feet. Brother. She ran barefoot across the floor and threw herself into his arms. Her limbs locked tight around his waist. Lin Fan patted the top of her head gently. Have you eaten? I did. Aunt Wang stewed spare ribs for me. Yaya tilted her head back, scanning him up and down. You look thinner, brother. I'm not thinner. I've bulked up. Liar. Your face is all sharp. Lin Fan pried her loose and sat at the desk. Her exercise books lay spread out, messy yet earnest handwriting filling each page. A half-finished bowl of rib soup sat beside her papers. Yaya, pack your things. We're moving tomorrow. The pencil froze in her grasp. Moving where? The capital. The capital. That's so far away. Yaya blinked rapidly. Why do we have to move? Lin Fan sorted through his words carefully. Too many people in Zhang City recognized him. His school classmates, teacher Qinshu, the vendors he'd traded with at the market. Though his identity records had been erased from the system, his face could never be scrubbed away. If anyone connected him to code name 0, endless trouble would follow. Yet he could not explain such complex dangers to a 7-year-old child. The Capitol House has a huge yard. You can keep all your ants there. Yaya's expression lit up instantly. Really? How big is it? 800 mu. What's a 100 mu like? So big you could run laps and never hit the end. Yaya jumped straight into the air, one slipper flying off her foot. Let's move right now. I want to go tomorrow. Lin Fan held her down. Go to sleep first. Early the next morning, Lin Fan bid Aunt Wang farewell. handing her a card loaded with 500,000 copper coins too. Thank her for caring for Yaya in his absence. Aunt Wang's eyes glistened as she pressed a sack of her homemade pickled cowpeas into his hands. She told him to keep a taste of hometown food even in the capital. Their luggage was minimal. 2 woven sacks, 1 school backpack, plus a temperature-controlled incubation box. The Ant Queen had long since hatched, yet Yaya refused to leave it behind. She claimed the queen loved sleeping inside the container. The teleportation ray cost 200 copper coins. Another burst of white light, and they arrived in the capital. Staff arranged by Liao Yongxin waited at the ray exit beside a tinted black commercial van. The driver spoke few words. Transporting them to the city's northwest outskirts, the vehicle rumbled down a dirt road for 20 minutes, dense woodland lining both sides. Yaya pressed her face against the window, her jaw dropping wider with every passing minute. Brother, is this the countryside, suburban outskirts, more accurately? The van rounded a bend and came to a stop. A 3 meters tall gray brick wall stretched endlessly before them. A black iron gate fitted with an electronic lock marked the entrance. The driver handed Lin Fan an access key card and a slip of paper. Supplies will be delivered every Tuesday and Friday. The full supply list is written here at any missing items whenever you need them. Lin Fan nodded and took the items, watching the van drive away. He swiped the card and pushed the gate open. Yaya sprinted inside, skidding to a halt after 2 steps, stunned silent. The yard was truly massive, a 100 mu. Large enough that running its full length would tire her out completely. Flagstone paths wound across neatly trimmed lawns. Ancient trees dotted the far grounds with a small bamboo grove beyond them. The 2-story white-walled black-tiled main house sat dead center. Plain yet spacious, a small pond out front housed several gliding koish. Yaya spun 3 full circles in the yard center, growing dizzy before plopping down onto the grass. Brother, are we rich now? You could say that. Can I raise as many ants as I want? All you like. Yaya carefully lifted the ant queen out of the woven sack. The creature had doubled in size since their departure. Its body a deep crimson. 6 thick muscular legs supported its frame, the delicate antennae swiving constantly. It lay calm and still cupped in his palms. Lin Fan used scan on it on impulse. As soon as its stat panel popped up, his brows lifted slightly. Mutant Ant Queen level 1. Attack 10, defense 30, health 500. It had been level 0 with 0 attack and defense when he left. Now it had leveled up once. Yaya, what have you been feeding this thing? Meat, the spare ribs, Aunt Wang made. I gnaw the meat off the bones and give her the leftovers. Yaya spoke as if it were obvious. She eats so much an entire rib vanishes in 5 minutes. Crunch, crunch, crunch. How much do you feed her each day? At first, 1 rib a day. Then 5. I don't know her full appetite. She eats anything I set in front of her. Yaya counted on her fingers. Brother, you have to get way more meat for her. If she's hungry, she crawls everywhere. Once she wandered to Aunt Wang's doorway and scared her half to death. Mutated creatures' appetites grew exponentially with each level. Even at level 1, she devoured for ribs daily. By level 10 or 20, sourcing enough meat to feed her alone would become an exhausting chore. Lin Fan stared at the Ant Queen for several seconds. A thought crossed his mind as he remembered his inventory. He opened his system bag and rummaged through its contents. Snake gallbladders, rat bones, turtle carapaces, wasp claws, and exoskeletons, bear skeletons, mountains of monster drops. Each stockpiled in the tens of millions. These materials held little trading value for humans. Yet they served as perfect feed for mutated life forms. Consuming tissue from the same species yielded maximum absorption efficiency. Lin Fan decided to test the theory. Walking beneath a large tree in the yard's southeast corner, a secluded spot far enough from the main house, he opened his inventory. He selected turtle carapaces and withdrew 10,000 pieces. Instantly, a mound materialized out of thin air atop the lawn. Mounds of gray-brown turtle shells, each the size of an adult palm, emitted a faint fishy stench. Yaya ran over, clutching the Ant Queen. Before she even drew near, the queen's antennae shot straight upright. Its 6 legs thrashed frantically, nearly slipping free of his grasp. She wants down, brother. She's going crazy. Lin Fan took the queen from her hands and set her on the grass. The crimson insect darted forward at impossible speed. It lunged onto the turtle shell mound, mandibles snapping to crush an entire shell in one bite. A constant storm of crunching filled the air, shell fragments scattering everywhere. Yaya squatted beside the mound, staring in awe. She eats so fast. Lin Fan pulled out more materials. 1 million rat bones, 1 million snake gallbladders, 10 million wasp claws. 3 more towering piles bloomed across the lawn. The Ant Queen finished the turtle shells without pausing, charging straight for the rat bone heap. Her mandibles snapped faster and faster. Lin Fan watched for 5 full minutes. She had devoured most of the turtle shell mound and moved on to the rat bones, her pace never slowing. His inventory held tens of millions of each material type, enough feed to sustain her for an eternity. Yaya, bring her here whenever she's hungry from now on. She'll feed herself. No need for you to hunt meat anymore. Yay. Lin Fan sent Yaya back inside to wash her hands for breakfast, then stepped into the house to inspect the residence. The ground floor featured a living room and kitchen. 3 bedrooms occupied the second floor, all fully furnished with brand new bedding. Once Yaya was settled to sleep, Lin Fan shut the door to his private bedroom. He lay back on the bed and pulled up his character stat panel. Level 42. His throwing range had expanded to 4,000 to 100 meters. The proficiency bar for his hidden talent had skyrocketed over the days spent clearing the Mountain Sea Theater. He scrolled downward. The talent tier for his 100 guaranteed hit mechanics max at level 10. A brand new bonus effect glowed faintly at the panel's bottom in dark gold text. Tier 10 effect. Stack damage. Each strike doubles total damage from the prior hit. Damage multiplies sequentially within a single attack sequence. Lin Fan stared at the line of text, his fingers hovering midair. Stack damage. Every dagger hit dealt twice as much damage as the last. First strike 2,000 for 100 damage. The first dagger dealt 20 for 100 damage, the second doubled it, and each following strike multiplied the sequence again. By the 10th hit, the damage reached millions, while later strikes climbed so quickly that ordinary calculations stopped being useful. With more than 100 projectiles every second, the mechanic was not an upgrade anymore. It was exponential destruction. The numbers far outstripped his ability to comprehend them. That golden horn colossus with 15 million health and 10,000 armor had taken a full 30. The golden horn colossus had once required 30 exhausting minutes, but 13 stacked hits could now exceed 10 million damage. 13 shots less than a tenth of a millisecond. A primal tier monster with 15 million health points. Hypothetically speaking, it would drop dead in a fraction of a second. Even 10 times more defense meant nothing against complete armor penetration, and billions of health would disappear before a full second passed. The 60th strike carried 1,000 for 100 multiplied by 2 to the 60th power, a number beyond practical battlefield meaning. He did not need to calculate the number to know. No known mutated creature could withstand it. Lin Fan rested his hand on his status panel, frozen for a long moment. Primal tier not even worth his attention. Even if higher tier mutants emerge in the future, as long as the first shot lands damage, every subsequent strike will crush them exponentially. His attack power crisis had been fully resolved. Starting today, 60 gilded plume bows were more than enough. Any extra would be a waste. From now on, all free attribute points would go straight into defense and health points. Staying alive was the only thing he needed to worry about. As he browsed his stats, a message popped up in the chat box. It was Liao Yongxin. Lin Fan tapped open the message. 0, we've got a situation. The Capital Defense Bureau received intelligence today. They want to request your aid. Lin Fan stared at the chat window and tapped a reply. What's the matter? Liao Yongxin responded instantly. The Capital Defense Bureau detected abnormal spatial rift activity of unknown tier located in the western suburbs of the capital. We'll discuss the full details in person tomorrow. I'll send you the contact's info. Send the location to me. Lin Fan typed for words and closed the chat box. He would deal with the capital's business tomorrow. Right now, he had something much more important to attend to. Clearing out the mountain of loot in his inventory. He opened his system backpack, and the numbers flashed across the screen. Orange treasure chest. 52,347. Lin Fan froze for a beat. 500,000 chest. He'd accumulated them over those days in the Mountain Sea combat zone. He had fought his way through the swarm woods and 3 hazard zones without a spare moment to open them. He moved his finger to the Open All button and tapped it. The screen washed pure white for 3 full seconds. System alerts flashed nonstop. Orange light flooding every inch of the panel. When the light effects faded, neat numbers lined his inventory. Orange tier equipment. 52,347 pieces. 500,000 orange grade items. Lin Fan barely glanced at them. Individually, they held 0 value to him. Their only purpose was to be fused into higher gear. He tapped mass fuse. A confirmation prompt popped up. Fuse all orange tier equipment. 1 success rate. Projected yield of roughly 2,500 red tier items. He confirmed. A progress bar appeared on the panel, its percentage ticking slowly. Lin Fan set his phone on the nightstand and headed to the bathroom to splash cold water on his face. When he returned, the bar was halfway filled. 15 minutes later, the progress bar hit 100 red tier equipment, 28,060 for pieces, 28,000 red grade items. He kept fusing. He tapped mass fuse once more. Confirmation prompt. Fuse all red tier equipment. Projected yield of roughly 140 dark gold tier items. Confirm. This time, the progress bar moved far faster thanks to the smaller quantity of red gear. In under 5 minutes, a crisp chime echoed. Dark gold tier equipment 120 pieces. The equipment icons on the panel shifted color. No longer red, but a deep gold-black hue through with faint halos. Lin Fan selected 3 pieces to inspect. Skyburn Meteor Bindings Dark Gold Grade Agility plus 600 Attack. Plus 2,500 Special Effect. Rockfire Barrier Blast reduce critical damage taken by 60 upon suffering a critical hit. Gain an additional 18 all damage reduction for 5 seconds. Exclusive Dark Gold Passive Meteorite Fortitude when health points drop below 60. Critical damage reduction rises by an extra 28. And restore to maximum health points per second. Gem Sockets 3 slots. Skyburn Meteor Plate Armor Dark Gold Vitality plus 1,200 Defense. Plus 5,260 max health points plus 28,000. Special Effect Ember Void Reversion reduce magic damage taken by 60. Restore to 0.5 maximum health points each time struck by a spell. Exclusive Dark Gold Passive Skyburn Star Shield. Boost maximum health points by 130. Fully negate 30 burst spell damage when hit by a magic critical strike. Gem Sockets 3 slots. Skyburn Meteor Vambraces Dark Gold Defense plus 4,040 max health points. Plus 192,000 special effect. Eternal Toxin Nullification fully immune to all persistent poison corrosion and burn damage. Erase all poison crowd control durations instantly. Exclusive Dark Gold Passive. Meteor Lifeguard Block 1 Fatal Attack. 60-second cooldown. Upon triggering, gain 30 all damage reduction for 4 seconds. Gem Sockets 3 slots. Skyburn Piercing Hornet Boots Dark Gold Great Agility plus 780 Attack. Plus 3,500 Special Effect 1 Iron Ember Ward. Reduce physical attack damage by 60. Gain to 0.5 movement speed for 6 seconds after taking a basic attack. No stacking cap. Special Effect 2 Hornet Skyburn Rush. Boost movement speed by 150 out of combat. Instantly clear all slow route. And stun debuffs when exiting combat. Last 8 seconds. Exclusive Dark Gold Passive. Meteor Shadow Glide. Raise basic physical attack dodge chance by 22. Gain 5 attack speed for 3 seconds after a successful dodge. Gem Sockets 3 slots. Lin Fan equipped all 4 pieces immediately. His red tier gear auto unloaded and the dark gold armor clung to his frame. There were no flashy equip animations, yet the stats on his panel surged wildly. Stats finalized. Attack 6,035 defense, 930 for max health points. 86,000 agility, 1,380 vitality, 1,200. Lin Fan stared at the figures, mentally running calculations. 6,000 base attack doubled by guaranteed critical strikes for 12,000 damage per shot. 9,300 defense. The Golden Horn Beast boasted 35,000 attack. After the 60 physical damage reduction, its actual piercing damage landed at roughly 14,000. With over 800,000 health points, he could tank more than 50 such blows. More than 100 shots each second restored health equal to their full damage, keeping his enormous health bar permanently filled. His health bar would stay full. 1,380 agility. The 150 out of combat speed buff pushed his instant movement speed past 3,400, short of opponents capable of teleportation. Nothing in this world could catch up to him. 1,200 vitality. He could fight non-stop for a full week without fatigue. And then there was the exponential damage stacking. Lin Fan closed his eyes running the math. The first shot dealt 12,000, the second 24,000, and the 10th already crossed several million damage. He could not bring himself to finish the calculation. Lin Fan shut his status panel and lay back on the bed. A crack ran across the ceiling and moonlight seeped through the curtain gap to paint a thin white line across the floor. Yaya's steady breathing drifted over from the next room. 120 dark gold pieces, if he fused them further. Above dark gold lay legendary tier gear. How many times stronger would legendary stats be compared to dark gold? 3-fold, 5-fold at that tier. He suspected he could stand completely still and no foe would ever kill him. Lin Fan rolled over, forcing himself to stop daydreaming. He had serious business tomorrow, the Capital Defense Bureau, an unknown tier spatial rift. He set his alarm for 6:30 in the morning. The next morning, when Lin Fan woke, Yaya was already out in the yard. The queenin had grown noticeably larger. Her 6 legs dug into a pile of rat bones as she crunched away, a small translucent egg sac bulging from her abdomen. Brother. Her belly's huge. Is she going to have babies? Probably. Does that make me a grandma? You're only 7 years old. Lin Fan heated milk and bread for Yaya, telling her not to leave the yard. He changed into casual clothes and headed out. Dark gold gear could hide its appearance via system setting. He toggled it to display his common cloth armor, turning his overpowered set into something indistinguishable from a gray tracksuit. The coordinates Liao Yongxing sent led to a gray unmarked high-rise in central capital city. No house numbers, no signage. 2 awakened warriors in black uniforms stood guard at the entrance, both above level 30. Lin Fan gave his code name. 0, follow me, please. The elevator descended to the 3rd underground floor. A conference room sat at the end of the corridor, where Liao Yongxing waited alongside to others. One was a 40-something square-jawed man with a buzz cut, wearing olive drab tactical fatigues emblazed with 3 stars on his chest. The second official was a woman in her early 30s, wearing a laboratory coat over fitted combat gear and a glowing ring. A glowing ring equipment on the ring finger of her left hand. Liao Yongxing stood to greet him. You're here. Let me introduce you. Zhao Tan, Deputy Director of the Capital Defense Bureau, and Lui, Lead Research Analyst of the Institute. Zhao Tan sized Lin Fan up and down. This is 0. Doubt thickened his tone. It was understandable. Lin Fan looked every bit an 18-year-old high school student in his tracksuit. He still carried the soft youthfulness of adolescence. He bore no resemblance to someone with a resume, stating he'd single-handedly cleared the whole Mountain Sea combat zone. Liao Yongxing's and offered no explanation, merely nodding toward Lin Fan. Xiao Tan dropped his gaze and activated a holographic projection. A 3-dimensional map materialized. A blinking red dot marked the western suburbs of the capital. Roughly 40 kilometers straight-line distance from Lin Fan's home, a spatial rift appeared at the spot 3 days ago. Xiao Taihan traced a finger over the dot, zooming the feed in. It started at 2 meters wide and has expanded to 12 meters now. Every 6 hours, the rift briefly opens for approximately 3 minutes. Louis picked up the threat. We sent 2 scouting teams inside. The first had 5 members, all above level 30. Communications cut off immediately. None returned. What about the second team? Lin Fan asked. Louis went quiet for 2 beats. 12 operatives. Their captain was one of the capital's top 3S rank awakeners, level 45. 9 minutes after entry, only 1 crawled back out alive. The rest dead. Xiao Tan added. The survivor emerged with all gears shattered, barely a sliver of health points left. He passed out right after saying 1 sentence in the medical ward. Lin Fan waited for him to continue. Xiao Taihan glanced at him. He said, there's something inside, a tier above primal. Silence hung over the conference room for several seconds. Lin Fan leaned back in his chair, tapping the tabletop absently with his fingers, a tier stronger than primal. He pictured the golden horn beast's stats. Level 55, 15 million health points. That monster had nearly killed him back then. But that was then. Now, when will it open next? Xiao Taihan and Louis exchanged a glance. In 6 hours, Lin Fan stood up. Send me the exact location. I'll head there alone. Zhao Taihan frowned. 0. Going in by yourself. I don't need anyone else. Lin Fan walked to the door, pausing without turning back. Crowds will only get in the way. Clear the whole rift perimeter when it opens. No personnel within a 1 kilometer's radius. The door clicked shut behind him. Xiao Taihan turned to Liao Yongxing, his face screaming, Are you kidding me? Liao Yongxing sipped his tea calmly. When he says he doesn't need backup, he truly doesn't. Even a level 45S rank squad had been erased inside. But Liao Yongxing reminded them 0 had soloed the whole Mountain Sea theater, the Mountain Sea combat zone, in a single afternoon by himself. He solo killed that level 55 primal golden horn beast. Do you honestly think he needs reinforcements? Zhao Tan opened his mouth but found no retort. Louis stared down at the tablet in her hands, pulled up 0's mission file. All personal identifiers were blank. Only rows upon rows of combat records. Her finger froze on the final entry. Slay primal mutant golden horn beast level 55. Solo completion. She scrolled further down to a small footnote pinned by Liao Yongxing Shin. Addendum. All listed achievements are conservative estimates. 0's true upper power limit unknown. 6 hours passed. Lin Fan returned home, cooked lunch for Yaya, and checked on the Queen Ant. She devoured the whole first pile of rat bones. doubled in size from the previous day, her egg sac far fuller than before. There was no rush to leave. He still had plenty of time. His communications panel buzzed nonstop, flooded with messages from Liao Yongxin sent at shorter intervals. Message 10. New intel on the rift. Louis's team analyzed gear fragments from the survivor, discovering traces of an unknown energy corrosion matching no recorded mutant attack type. Message 2. Institute preliminary hypothesis. The creature within may surpass primal tier. They've proposed a new classification. Stellar remnant tier. Message 3. Stellar remnant tier is purely theoretical, never officially confirmed. Researchers warn the unknown entity might exceed primal monsters by tenfold. After destroying a level 45 S-rank team within minutes. Entire team in 9 minutes alone. Going in solo. Message 5. I'm not doubting your strength, but a true stellar remnant entity operates on an entirely different scale from the foes you fought in the Mountain Sea Zone. Message 6. Could you bring a support operative along? Even a healer posted outside as backup would help. Message 7. Sent half an hour later. Reply when you can. Lin Fan was peeling an apple for Yaya. He set the knife down, wiped his hands, and typed for words in response. Don't worry, Liao Yongxin replied instantly. You're certain? Certain. Very well. The rift opens in 3 hours. Lin Fan set his phone aside and went back to peeling the apple. Outside, Yaya chased the queen ant around the yard. The ant now outran her easily, its 6 legs gouging pits all over the lawn. Brother, it won't let me ride it. It's an ant, not a horse, but it's so huge now. No matter how big it grows, it's still not a horse. Lin Fan sliced the apple into chunks and set them on the table, drying his palms. 3 hours, more than enough time. Western suburbs of the capital, 3:40 in the afternoon. When Lin Fan arrived, the whole 1 kilometer's radius around the rift stood completely deserted. Zhao Taihan had deployed 2 squadrons to set up a cordon around the perimeter, while Liao Yongxin waited at the nearest observation post. Clutching a comms device tight in his grip, the rift hovered 3 meters above ground, its edges twisting constantly like torn fabric, a deep crimson glow seeping out from within. 12 meters wide, even larger than it had been 6 hours prior, Louis stood beside Liao Yongxin, her tablet displaying scrolling energy data curves. She pushed her glasses up as Lin Fan approached, words catching in her throat. How much time left? Lin Fan stepped directly beneath the rift, tilting his head upward to study it. Liao Yongxin checked his timer. 17 minutes. Understood. 50 meters away, Zhao Taihan shouted over his walkie-talkie. All units pulled back past the cordon. No approaching the rift under any circumstances. Lin Fan stood waiting. Liao Yongxin walked over, lowering his voice to a hush. One final question. Are you absolutely set on going in alone? Yeah. We have 0 intel on what's inside. That level 45 survivor said 3 of his men died instantly before he even caught a glimpse of their foe. 3 lives gone in a split second. Lin Fan clapped Liao Yongxin lightly on the shoulder. Relax. Come panic only if I haven't stepped out after 5 minutes. Liao Yongxin parted his lips, then sighed and retreated to the observation post. 15 minutes left. 10 minutes left. 5 minutes left. The air started to tremble violently. The rift's edges warped much more drastically, and the crimson light flared 10 times brighter. It's opening, Louis called out. The rift split vertically down the middle, unfurling like a vertical eye. Pitch blackness stretched inside, save for a single blazing crimson beam shooting straight skyward from its core. The second Lin Fan laid eyes on that red pillar, his pupils narrowed sharply. He recognized this sight. The damaged purple light portal in the abandoned stadium locker room led to an identical scene. A circular altar, a conical crystal, that same scarlet beam piercing the sky. Exactly the same. Last time he'd only caught sight of a single massive claw. This time he would see the creature in full. Lin Fan did not hesitate. He pushed off the ground, leaping 3 meters upward, and vanished straight into the rift. Outside the rift, Liao Yongxin stared rigidly at the tier, his knuckles wide around the K's unit. 1 minute passed, 2 minutes passed, 3 minutes passed. Not a single sound escaped the rift. No combat tremors, no surges of energy, nothing at all. Xiao Taihan walked over. Any updates? Liao Yongxin shook his head. Louis stared at the energy curves on her tablet. Internal rift energy signatures are completely stable. No signs of fierce combat. No fight broke out. Zhao Taihan frowned. We can't know. Louis trailed off, leaving the rest unspoken. Or the battle had ended in an instant. Whichever side had won. For minutes. For in 1 per 2 minutes. Liao Yongxin's hands started to shake. The 5-minute mark hit. The rift suddenly contracted violently. Every onlooker's heart lurched. Then a figure stepped out into the open air. Gray tracksuit, the youthful face of an 18-year-old boy, hair tousled by wind. His feet touched the ground with casual ease, as if he'd only stepped out for a stroll. Lin Fan unscathed. Liao Yongxin rushed over in 3 quick strides. How is it? What's going on inside? Lin Fan came to a halt. Head bowed as if lost in thought. 0. Lin Fan lifted his head, his expression odd. Not nervous. Not excited, just an inexplicable confusion. It's dealt with. Dealt with. Liao Yongxin froze. What do you mean? The creature inside. There's no more threat. The rift should seal itself soon. Xiao Taihan ran over, too. Are you certain? What tier was the entity in there? Primordial tier or above primordial tier? Lin Fan paused, but it didn't attack me. All 3 men went quiet. Louis recovered first. It didn't attack you. Why wouldn't it? I don't know. Lin Fan cut her off. In any case, there's nothing to worry about. I've resolved the rift issue. You take over follow-up surveillance. Without another word, he turned and left. Liao Yongxin chased after him a couple steps. 0. What exactly happened? You're only going to tell me it's dealt with. Lin Fan didn't look back, waving a hand over his shoulder. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Night? Yaya had long since fallen asleep. Lin Fan lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Images from deep within the rift replayed endlessly in his mind. Stepping inside had been identical to last time. An empty stone chamber, a circular altar, and a palm-sized conical crystal embedded dead center. A crimson beam shot from the crystal's tip, streaking straight up into the rift overhead. The last time he'd come, a massive claw had thrust through the crack and clamped onto the crystal. He loosed several darts, forcing the monster to retreat, then snatched the crystal and fled. This time was different. As soon as he set foot on the altar, the air in the chamber solidified. Not a figure of speech, literal physical stagnation. His breath caught for a split second, blood slowing to a crawl in his veins. Then, out of thin air, a figure materialized across the altar. A human figure, no colossal beast. No mutated abomination, no variant form he'd ever laid eyes on. Just a man, male, appearing around 30 years old, black hair and black eyes, clad in a long dark gray robe. His features were completely unremarkable. His skin panel displayed only one impossible result, star rec tier, with every measurable attribute marked as unreadable. Star rec, tier data unreadable, not even its tier could be parsed. Attack, defense, health, all marked with question marks. Lin Fan's first instinct was to strike. 60 daggers nested between his fingers. His 100% stacking damage passive primes to activate at any second. If the first shot pierced its defenses, exponential damage would overwhelm it instantly. Yet, he held back because the man glanced at him and smiled faintly, a soft, calm smile. Like observing some curious oddity, the stranger calmly identified Lin Fan as the person who had stolen the crystal. During the earlier rift incident, Lin Fan said nothing, darts ready to fly at a moment's notice. The man paid no mind to his weariness, tilting his head and sizing him up for several seconds. Interesting. Rank dart wielder awakened less than a month ago. To make it this far, you've got real potential. Lin Fan's spine went rigid. The stranger knew his class. The stranger knew exactly how long he'd been awakened. The man took one step forward. Lin Fan twisted his wrist, launching 6 gilded feather darts. 100 hit chance, 100% critical strike chance, 100% armor penetration, 100% stacking damage. Violet gold light streaked across 10 meters, aimed dead at the stranger. The daggers halted half a meter from his body. They hung suspended midair, motionless as if seized by an invisible grip. All 6 gilded feathers froze in place. The man glanced down at the hovering projectiles, then back up at Lin Fan, his smile unchanged. Easy now. I bear you no ill will. Killing you would gain me nothing. The darts rebounded toward Lin Fan, yet his passive prevented them from returning to his grasp, sending them flying forward again. This time, the man made no move to block. The darts struck his body, each blow dealing a mere 1 damage value. Could the stack damage timer have expired? Impossible. His 100 passives never failed. The only explanation was an absurd damage reduction effect or some unknown mechanic he hadn't yet uncovered. Lin Fan tightened his grip on the remaining darts, holding off a second volley. Attacking was pointless. The stranger hadn't retaliated, hadn't shifted his stance even once. And that paltry 1 damage meant nothing. A flicker of surprise crossed the man's face when the darts hit before settling back into calm. The man explained that he would speak only briefly, because killing Lin Fan offered him no benefit and conflict was unnecessary. Lin Fan stayed silent. This is merely a screening game. The man turned to face him. His tone as casual as discussing the weather. The fact you stand here speaking with me means you possess something no one else does. What game? Lin Fan finally broke his silence. You call it awakening, call it the system, call it dungeons, call it mutant creature invasions. The man spread his hands. It doesn't matter what label you use. According to the stranger, awakening, dungeons, and mutant invasions were merely different names for the same massive screening process. Crimson light spilled across his face, casting half his features in shadow. This game. It seems to be drawing to an end. As the words left his mouth, his form started to turn transparent, erasing upward. Lin Fan tightened his hold on the darts and stepped forward. What do you mean? What's ending? Most of the man's body had already dissipated. Only the outline from his chest upward remained visible. What comes after it ends? After wishing Lin Fan good luck, the star wreck entity disappeared completely, leaving no trace of energy behind. Lin Fan stood alone on the altar for the full minutes. The silence so complete he could hear his own heartbeat, a screening game drawing to an end. Good luck. He replayed those phrases over and over in his head, each repetition leaving a heavier sense of unease. The awakening system is a game. Who is running it behind the scenes? Screening. What do they intend to do with those who pass the screening? What does drawing to an end signify? Human extinction, the disappearance of the system, or perhaps something far larger approaching? He couldn't unravel it. There was far too little information. Every word the stranger had spoken felt like a fragment of an answer, yet none fit together to form a complete picture. Lin Fan rolled over in bed, yanking the quilt over his head. Yaya tossed and turned in the next room, muttering half-formed words in her sleep. The crunching sound of the queen ant feeding still echoed from the yard. Lin Fan forced his racing thoughts to a halt. Unsolved questions would have to wait. Only two facts were certain for now. First, that star-wrecked tier entity had no intention of killing him and posed no immediate threat. Second, whatever the game ending entailed, humanity had to win. He needed to grow stronger. No matter what the final outcome held, he needed absolute power as a safety net. A single powerhouse wouldn't be enough. He needed an army. Lin Fan glanced toward the queen ant, still devouring her pile of materials. The next day, Lin Fan did not step foot outside. The queen ant's appetite far outstripped his estimates the night prior. He pulled out a stockpile of turtle carapaces, rat bones, snake gallbladders, and wasp claws. 12 million portions in total. He thought it would sustain her for days. Yet, when his alarm went off, at 6:30 the next morning, Lin Fan discovered that the queen had already consumed the entire mountain of rat bones, her body now the size of a small dog. Brother, she's gotten even bigger. Yaya stood in the middle of the yard holding a glass of milk, eyes shining with excitement. Lin Fan cast a scan on her. Mutant Queen and level 5 attack, 80 defense, 200 health points, 30,000. She'd shot from level 1 to level 5. Overnight, he walked to the southeast corner of the yard and opened his backpack, dumping out another massive haul. This time, he held nothing back. 5 million snake gallbladders, 3 million turtle carapaces, 20 million wasp claws, 8 million rat bones. From mounds over to meters tall sprouted across the lawn in an instant. The queen ant's antennae whipped frantically. She pushed off with all 6 legs, launching herself forward to bury her head in the snake gallbladder pile without hesitation. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Her feeding speed had tripled since the day before. Brother, is she starving? Let her eat her fill. Lin Fan left her to it, heading back inside to heat breakfast for Yaya. By 3 in the afternoon, even the huge Karapachi mound had vanished, proving the colony's appetite was accelerating beyond expectation. By 8 that night, only a small remnant of the wasp claw pile remained of the 4 mountains of material. He scanned her again. Mutant Queen Ant level 12 attack, 340 defense, 800 health points, 12,000. A single day climbing from level 5 to level 12. Staring at the stats on the panel, Lin Fan quietly opened his backpack and tallied his remaining reserve snake gallbladders: 9.88 million wasp claws, 86 million rat bones, 34 million turtle carapaces, 21 million wasp stingers, 12 million ant exoskeletons, 68 million bare bones, 4 million various miscellaneous drops, roughly 30 to 40 million portions. Total stockpile, just over 1.2 billion portions. Would it be enough? He had no way to tell. He would keep feeding her and see. He emptied every last reserve of snake gallbladders, turtle carapaces, and rat bones from his backpack in one go. The whole southeast corner of the yard transformed into a stockyard, a heap spanning half a basketball court. Yaya stared, dumbfounded. Brother, all of this is for her to eat. She eats way too much. You ate just as much when you were little. I did not. The third day, when Lin Fan rose in the morning, the queen ant stretched half a meter long. Mutant queen ant level 20 attack, 1,200 defense, 2,600 health points, 45,000. Nearly a third of the material piles in the yard had been consumed. Most striking of all, her abdominal egg sac swelled like a balloon, translucent membrane teeming with countless tiny red specks writhing within. Lin Fan knelt down for a closer look. Yaya hopped from foot to foot beside him. Brother, is she going to lay eggs? The words barely left her mouth when the queen ant's tail contracted and a single red egg rolled out. Then a second, a third, and then Lin Fan's eyes widened. Eggs sprayed from her tail in an unbroken stream, bouncing across the lawn one after another without pause. He counted instinctively, roughly 100 eggs per second. 100 eggs every second. Even more shocking, within 3 seconds of hitting the ground, each eggshell split open. Tiny red ant larvae wriggled free from the cracks, no bigger than fingernails, scurrying off as soon as all 6 legs touched grass. Where were they headed? Straight for the material mounts. Dozens of larvae clambered up the rat bone piles, their minuscule mandibles actually capable of gnawing through solid bone. They moved slowly, but their numbers multiplied by the second. After 1 minute, over 6,000 larvae covered the grass. After 5 minutes, 30,000. A thick red carpet spread across the lawn, a sea of tiny wriggling specks. Yaya's excitement faded into fear. She ducked behind Lin Fan, peeking out with only half her face visible. Brother, so many ants scared a little bit. They won't bite you, only eat. Let's head inside. Yaya clung to the hem of his shirt as they retreated toward the house, glancing back one last time halfway across the yard. Brother, will they crawl into the house? They won't? Lin Fan wasn't entirely certain himself, but the queen ant recognized Yaya and her spawn should inherit that instinct. After watching for a while, he confirmed the larvae never strayed beyond the material piles, never creeping toward the building. He relaxed. The fourth day, the yard was completely overrun. From the southeast corner all the way to the center lawn, ants carpeted every inch of ground. No stone paving visible beneath the dense red mass far off. The queen ant perched atop the highest mound of wasp claws, her body exceeding 1 meter in length, 6 legs thick as tree branches. Lin Fan leaned against the second-floor balcony railing, a faint prickle crawling up his scalp as he looked down. He did a rough calculation. The queen ant had begun spawning on day 3, roughly 30 hours prior. At 100 eggs per second, 10.8 million ants. Over 10 million ants filling his backyard. Yaya dared not step outside anymore, pressing her face to the second-story window with a wrinkled frown. Brother, is our yard ruined? It's not ruined. They'll clear out once they finish eating. When will that be? Lin Fan watched the rate the material pile shrank. 10 million larvae feeding simultaneously consumed resources hundreds of times, faster than the queen ant alone. The wasp claw mound shrank visibly by the minute, and the ant exoskeleton pile was already gone. At this consumption rate, he opened his backpack and dumped out every remaining supply. 80 million wasp claws, 10 million wasp stingers, 68 million and exoskeletons for million bare bones, plus 30 to 40 million miscellaneous drops, roughly 1 billion portions left in total. 10 million mouths feeding non-stop with their numbers still rising. The supplies wouldn't last 2 days. Dusk of the 5th day. When Lin Fan scanned the queen ant again, her stats were staggering. The queen reached level 30 with 4,500 attack, 8,000 defense, and 16,000 health points after only 5 days. All the way to level 30, the larvae population in the yard surged without end. The queen ant never halted spawning 100 eggs spilling out every second 24 hours a day. Lin Fan estimated the total count now stood at roughly 16 million. He scanned a random larvae. A random larva had reached level 8, carrying 60 attack, 40 defense, and 800 health points among 16 million siblings. Individually, they posed little threat, but unleashed as a single swarm of 16 million. Lin Fan dared not imagine that battle. Yet a critical problem loomed. The material piles were nearly exhausted. 1.2 billion portions of supplies had vanished in 5 days. Consumption spiked exponentially on the final day. 16 million larvae plus a level 30 queen ant feeding together burned through resources 10 times faster than the prior days. By dawn on the 6th day, every scrap of material in the yard was gone. Deprived of food, the larvae wandered aimlessly across the lawn, never attacking anything. The queen ant ceased spawning, lying motionless in the yard's exact center. Lin Fan descended the stairs and walked to her side. She stretched over to meters long now, her waist reaching his hip. Dark red kitten glinting with metallic sheen, her 6 limbs tucked against her body. had antennae twitching faintly in his direction. No hostility radiated from her. Yet none of the gentle fondness she'd shown Yaya remained either. Lin Fan cast another scan. Mutant Queen Ant level 35 attack. 6,200 defense, 12,000 health points, 28,000. She'd gained another 5 levels. In the final stretch of dwindling supplies, the 16 million larvae had voluntarily stopped feeding, ceding all remaining resources solely to the queen ant. The innate instinct of ant colony: protect the queen above all else. The larvae averaged level 10. Their growth stalled. Lin Fan stood in the yard center and swept his gaze across the grounds. Dense red ants blanketed every surface within sight, silent as a frozen crimson ocean. 16 million ants. Was this enough? No. Their levels were far too low. Level 10 larvae would be nothing more than cannon fodder on the Mountain Sea battlefront. To function as a proper army, they needed to hit at minimum level 20, with level 30 marking usable combat strength. Their numbers were insufficient, too. 16 million sounded massive. Yet, if they faced a crisis of the scale hinted at by the game ending, he could not even fathom what form that threat might take, potentially numbering hundreds of millions or billions of foes. He needed to keep feeding them, but his backpack was empty. He double-checked the system storage. Snake gallbladders 0, turtle carapaces 0, rat bones 0, was claws 0, all 1 to billion portions consumed completely. The problem was simple. Where would he acquire more feed? The answer was equally straightforward. The finest sustenance for mutant creatures is other mutants. Lin Fan returned to the second floor, opened his communication panel, and sent a message to Liao Yongxing. Can you send me a distribution map of all national frontline battlefronts? A reply came instantly. I've got them. What do you need? Public release or internal military classified? The most detailed full version available. 30 seconds later, a file was pushed to his device. Lin Fan tapped to open it. A holographic map unfurling before his eyes. 8 major battlefronts spanned the nation. The country's frontline defenses were split geographically into 8 primary battlefronts, each governing numerous sub-battlefronts: Penguin, Greenwood, and Mountain Sea. The 3 sub-battlefronts near Zhang City fell under the jurisdiction of the Northern Gale Battlefront. Located in the north, Northern Gale covered the largest territory and hosted the most sub-battlefronts. The remaining 7 battlefronts were Surging Waves Battlefront Eastern Region, Red Ridge Battlefront Southwestern Region, Dark Wu Battlefront Southern Region, Central Plains Battlefront Central Region, Chima Desert Battlefront Northwestern Region, Frost Plain Battlefront Northeastern Region, Cliff Sea Battlefront Southernmost Region. Each battlefront bore a marked danger rating. Northern Gale Medium High Surging Waves Medium Red Ridge High Dark Wu Medium, Central Plains Low Frost Plain Medium High Cliff Sea High Chima Desert Extreme. The word extreme was printed in bright red with an attached footnote. Vast wind-swept sands conceal countless uncharted mutant hives. Multiple reconnaissance teams have gone missing. Actual hazard level, likely surpassing current evaluation standards. Lin Fan and stared at the label Chima Desert for 2 full seconds. He dragged a finger across the map and selected the Northern Gale battlefront. Another message pinged over from Liao Yongxing. What do you need that for? You aren't planning to. I've got business to attend to. Very well. Do you require backup? No need. Lin Fan closed the chat window. He headed downstairs and walked to the middle of the yard. The queen ant swiveled her antenna toward him. 16 million juvenile ants also halted their scurrying as if awaiting orders. Lin Fan opened his system inventory and selected the queen ant. A system prompt popped up. This unit falls under the loot item category and can be stored in the system inventory. Confirm storage. He tapped confirm. The queen ant's body dissolved into a streak of red light and shrank into an inventory slot. Right after, all 16 million juvenile ants on the ground simultaneously turned into red motes of light, surging backward like a receding tide and vanishing entirely into the inventory. The whole process took less than 3 seconds. The yard returned to its original state, save for the lawn, chewed full of craters and blue stone paving slabs covered in crawling tracks. Yaya's voice drifted down from the second-floor window. Brother, where are the ants? Where did they go? They went on a business trip. Ants go on business trips, too. Yes, they're traveling far to find food. Lin Fan tilted his head and called up to her. I'm leaving for a few days as well. Be good at home. Supplies will be delivered on Tuesday, and the fridge is stocked with meat and vegetables. You're leaving again. Yaya leaned on the windowsill, her mouth jutting out in a pout. I'll be back soon. You always say that. This time it's truly quick, just 3 days. Yaya stared at him for several long seconds, then held out her pinky finger. Pink swear. Lin Fan let out a laugh. leaped onto the second-floor balcony, and hooked Pinkies with her. Pink's wear tied with a string. 100 years, no take-backs. All right, 100 years. Lin Fan ruffled her hair, then vaulted off the balcony without a sound as he landed. When he reached the courtyard gate, he pulled out his map and glanced at the coordinates for the Northern Gale War Zone. The nearest teleportation array was in the city center, a 20-minute journey away. Winged haste activated, and his figure melted into the evening tree shadows, vanishing in a handful of breaths. Inside his inventory, 16 million ants and a level 35 queen waited quietly for their next meal. As for the mutated creatures of the Northern Gale War Zone, they had no idea they'd gone from a deadly threat to livestock feed. White light engulfed him as he stepped off the teleportation array. His boots landing on frozen tundra, Lin Fan had arrived at an abandoned outpost at the far western tip of the curved defensive line in the Northern Gale War Zone. Far off on the horizon, a dense mass of mutated beast crept slowly across the snowfield like a spreading blot of ink. He wasted no time. He opened his system inventory, selected the queen ant, and released her. A burst of red light hit the ground, solidifying into a dark crimson. Body over 2 meters long. 6 massive legs dug into the permafrost as her antennae twisted to skin every direction. Next, 16 million juvenile ants poured out of the inventory, a red flood blanketing the snow surrounding the outpost. The queen ant's antennae twitched toward the horde of mutated beasts to the east. Hold on. Lin Fan raised his hand, 60 luminous plumes hovering between his fingers. I'll lay out your feast first. He pushed off the ground, triggering winged haste, 3 kilometers away. The beast herd grazed lazily on moss buried beneath the frost. Seconds later, streaks of purple gold light sliced across the sky, 60 streaks in total. 100% hit rate, 100% critical strike, 100% armor penetration, 100% splash damage, 100% stacking damage. First strike, 12,000 damage. Second strike, 24,000 damage. Third strike, the whole herd never got a chance to react. After the first volley of 60 darts, overlapping splash damage covered every living thing. Within 100 meters radius, stacked damage ballooned to astronomical numbers. No amount of health could endure more than a fraction of a second. Hundreds of mutated bison collapsed as one across the snowfield. Corpses, intact corpses, not processed loot like teeth, bones, or while dropped by the system. Whole bodies of mutated beast, an adult mutated bison weighed 3 tons. Every part from meat and bones to organs and keratinized hide was high-purity mutated biomass. In terms of system loot volume, a single corpse equaled thousands of individual drops. Lin Fan turned and waved. A red tide surged from the outpost in the distance. The queen ant charged at the front, her speed wildly disproportionate to her massive frame. 16 million juvenile ants followed close behind, sweeping across the pile of carcasses in an overwhelming wave. The queen ant split her massive mandibles wide and bit straight through a bison's abdomen. Crunching sounds echoed as surrounding juvenile ants swarmed every corpse. Lin Fan watched for 2 minutes. A 3-ton and mutated bison from whole body to bare skeleton took roughly 4 minutes to consume, with 16 million mouths feeding immediately. The hundreds of bison carcasses were reduced to nothing in 20 minutes. No scraps left at all. Even bloodstains were licked clean. Only shallow depressions and crushed fragments of hooves remained on the snow. Not bad, pretty efficient. Without another word, Lin Fan turned and sprinted eastward. The next herd, 3 kilometers ahead, lay a den of mutated wolves, roughly 300 to 400 strong. He repeated the same process. Unleash the luminous plumes. Crush them with stacked damage. Wipe out every beast. Then pause and wait for the ant swarm to arrive and feed. Once they finished eating, he moved on. Another herd. Tedious work yet absurdly efficient. Day 3. Lin Fan had advanced from the westernmost tip of the curved defense line all the way to its midsection. Over 3 days, he traveled in bursts. Slay a herd, feed the ants, slay another, feed them again. He fought and fed nonstop for 16 hours each day, then curled up against a rock in a wind-sheltered spot for 2 hours of sleep, before resuming his work at dawn. His stamina sat at 1,200, enough to sustain a full week of nonstop combat without rest. By the end of the 3rd day, the queen ant had reached level 40, the juvenile ants averaged level 18. More crucially, their numbers. The queen ant never ceased reproducing 100 eggs per second, 24 hours a day. Over 3 days, she laid more than 25 million new eggs. Combined with the original 16 million, the total ant population topped 40 million. 40 million ants trailed behind Lin Fan like a winding red river stretching for Killam. The swarm's sheer size slowed their movement to a crawl, Lin Fan came up with a solution. He sprinted ahead to slaughter multiple herds in one go, leaving carcasses spread out in a long line. The ants no longer needed to crowd together to feed. They ate as they marched, the front ranks finishing their meals and pressing onward. A streamlined assembly line. Efficiency tripled. Day 5. Queen ant, level 45. Worker ants and soldier ants. Yes, the juveniles started to differentiate once they hit a certain level. Some grew larger with widened mandibles classified by the system as mutated red ant worker. Others sprouted keratin spikes on their heads and thickened forelimbs. Labeled mutated red ant soldier. Average worker ant level 22. Average soldier ant level 25. Total population 68 million. Mutated creature density in the mid-gale war zone was far higher than the western stretch. The beasts were significantly stronger. Large mutated beasts ranging from level 30 to 40 were everywhere, with occasional sightings of colossal level 45 variants. For Lin Fan, there was no meaningful difference against stack damage. A level 40 beast fared no better than a level 41. They merely survived an extra split second. High-level corpses provided richer nutrition, and one 12-ton colossal bear visibly pushed the queen's experience bar forward. The queen ant's experience bar jumped visibly upward. On the evening of the 5th day, Lin Fan stood in the center of a fully stripped battlefield and cast scan. A new line of text appeared on the queen ant stat panel. Mutant queen ant level 45 attack, 12,000 defense, 22,000 health points, 180,000. 180,000 health points, 22,000 defense. With these stats, she could stand toe-to-toe against a colossal monster in the Mountain Sea War Zone. Day 7. Chaos erupted on the World Channel. Lin Fan glanced at the public chat while pausing to rest, messages scrolling at breakneck speed. Anyone from the Western Northern Gale War Zone? Why can't I find even a single mutated rabbit these past 2 days? Same here. My party farmed the West all day. Not a single monster in sight. No way. Our guild was hunting wild boars in the mid-zone yesterday, and today there isn't even a bone left. Did you guys mix up your coordinates? No mistake. I'll send you my location. This area used to spawn at least 2,000 mutated wolves daily. 0 now. Literally 0. It's not just the West. The mid-zone is emptying too. Our guild scouts traveled 50 kilometers. No trace of any mutated creatures anywhere along the route. Has the official side released a statement? Defense Bureau says they're investigating. Could it be a mass migration? All the monsters moving somewhere else. Where would they go? The eastern zone still has beasts, but their numbers are dropping fast too. It's only happened these last 2 days. Like something sweeping everything eastward. Chilling to think about what could wipe out an entire war zone's monster population. Ancient tier beast. Even an ancient tier monster couldn't cover such a massive area. Lin Fan closed the channel and kept moving. Day 9. Eastern section of the curved defense line. This was the last region in the Northern Gale War Zone, still teeming with mutated creatures. Monster density hit its peak here alongside the highest levels across the whole war zone. Swarms of colossal beasts ranging from level 45 to 50 roamed the land, and to gargantuan shapes suspected to be ancient tier monsters could be seen moving along the distant mountain ridges. Lin Fan stood atop a hillside and peered down into the valley. The beasts were packed tight. A conservative estimate placed over 10,000 mutated creatures gathered there, the largest one spanning an area the size of an entire building. He raised his luminous plumes. 60 streaks of purple-gold light tore through. Purple-gold darts plunged into the valley, where stack damage climbed from 12,000 on the first strike to millions by the 10th. By the 20th hit, numbers stopped mattering, and the entire valley fell silent beneath mountains of freshly slain mutated creatures, top one another on the valley floor as if someone had hit pause on the world. Lin Fan retracted his darts and turned around. Down the hillside behind him, a red tide crested the mountain ridge. The queen ant led the charge, her body now over 4 meters long. 6 legs plus 2 newly sprouted auxiliary limbs brought her total to 8 appendages, carrying her at speeds matching a motor vehicle. The ant swarm stretched across the whole southern slope, vanishing beyond the horizon with no end in sight. 100 million ants. By day 9, their total population had broken the 100 million mark. Lin Fan had roughly calculated the numbers on the 8th night. The queen ant's reproduction rate accelerated as she leveled up, from an initial 100 eggs per second to 300 per second. Now over 9 days, her total egg output far exceeded 100 million, but accounting for a tiny number of juveniles crushed during movement negligible, and a smaller fraction stunted by insufficient nutrition. Roughly 100 million ants remain alive. 100 million mutated red ants averaging level 28. The swarm flooded the valley and swallowed every corpse. The endless cascade of crunching mandibles merged into a constant roar. Like rain hammering an iron rooftop, Lin Fan sat down on the hillside, leaning back against a boulder, and closed his eyes to rest. This was the first time he'd sat still for more than 5 minutes in 9 days. Day 10 dawn. Lin Fan stood at the eastern boundary of the Northern Gale War Zone's curved defense line with empty wastelands stretching out behind him, completely barren. 9 days prior, when he set off from the Western Zone, the Northern Gale War Zone had held an estimated tens of millions of mutated creatures of all levels. Now zero, absolutely none. From west to east, across more than 300 kilometers of land, not a single living mutated creature remained. Even their underground nest had been chewed hollow by the ants. He opened his stat panel to check the queen ant status. Mutant queen ant level 50 attack, 25,000 defense, 45,000 health points, 500,000. Level 50, 500,000 health points, 45,000 defense. With these stats, she could stand frontline against an ancient tier golden horn beast in the Mountain Sea War Zone's great battle. He checked the worker and soldier ants necks. Average worker ant level 28, average soldier ant level 32. Total population 103 million. 100 million ants around level 30. A single ant meant nothing. 100 ants meant nothing, but 100 million charging is one. Coordinated by swarm tactics, this was no mere army. It was a natural disaster. Lin Fan recalled the whole ant swarm into his inventory. He pulled up the world channel for a quick glance. After 10 relentless days, the entire Northern Gale War Zone contained no living mutated creature. Not even one hidden underground nest. Official investigators found empty battlefields without corpses, blood, or tracks, because the ant colony had consumed every remaining trace. The public channel exploded with theories about migrations, monster civil wars, and the mysterious fighter known only as Zero. Lin Fan ignored every rumor and checked the army stored safely inside his system inventory. The queen had reached level 50, while more than 100 million workers and soldiers averaged around level 30. Individually, those ants were unimpressive, but together they formed a coordinated natural disaster capable of swallowing entire battlefronts. Before choosing another destination, Lin Fan finally messaged Yaya, who immediately reminded him that his promised 3 days had become 10. Her complaint hit harder than any boss attack, because protecting his sister remained the only reason all this strength truly mattered. He promised to return after one final trip, sealing it with the same pinky oath she always demanded. Then he selected the Yunlong War Zone, where fresh mutant populations could strengthen the colony without threatening innocent civilians. Lin Fan stepped into the teleportation light with absolute mechanics, overwhelming stats, and an army hidden behind a single quiet inventory screen. For him, power was no longer measured by levels, but by how completely he could protect Yaya and everyone standing behind him.